Chapter 31. In other words, the trial had two parts. One part was Leo's Nen ability, endless trial. The other was this vast, unforgiving world. My oath. A flicker of sadness passed through Leo's eyes. Emotions swirled, nostalgia, attachment, regret. But in the next instant, his gaze steeled. He took a deep breath and spoke, voice quiet but resolute. I abandon the peace and order of human society, and embrace the cruel laws of nature. I forsake stable shelter, companionship, intimacy, and shared culture. I relinquish my natural rights as a human within society. I will be homeless, walking alone, and never know peace again. As the words left his lips, Leo felt something tear loose within his heart. Something precious, something warm. Love. Belonging. Human connection. But in his eyes, there was only unwavering resolve. In exchange, wherever I walk, that place becomes a trial. Leo declared. His voice was soft, yet carried the weight of mountains. Every person I meet, every object I encounter is part of the trial. Every second I live is either a trial itself, or the path to the next one. Oath, stranger. Boom. The moment the words fell, Leo's heart trembled. He felt an invisible shackle descend and wrap around him. It bound not his body, but his mind and soul. The fire within him could still burn, but never again be shared. His soul could no longer touch others. Couldn't be understood, nor understand. Like a lone traveler in a foreign land, everything he saw was unclear. Even familiar places would never feel like home again. From this moment forward, true rest would exist only within. The oath was complete. Ah! Leo exhaled slowly and looked around him once more. His perception had changed completely. Cold. Desolate. Foreign. He immediately began analyzing his surroundings through the lens of survival. His nerve tightened like drawn wire. The concept of relaxation seemed to disappear from his body. A deep unease filled him. Like a drifter without shelter. A man walking alone through hostile darkness. Yet, paradoxically, he felt more secure than ever before. His anxiety and his calm coexisted. Two sides of the same blade. The circle? The thought surfaced, reminding Leo of a metaphor he once heard. If human understanding were a circle, then everything inside it was known, safe. Outside the circle? The unknown. Danger. As one's knowledge and experience grew, the circle expanded. But as it did, so too did contact with the unknown. More knowledge brought more awareness of how much you didn't know. The more security you gained, the more fear came with it. A cycle with no end. Ha ha. Isn't that exactly what my Nen and oath represent? Leo laughed. And as he laughed, something shifted. His aura. His presence. He began to feel fundamentally incompatible with the world around him. Jerka, I'm back. Leo stepped through the door, shovel in hand. As he opened it, a gust of cold wind followed him inside. Ugh. Jerka flinched, shivering as he wrapped his arms around himself. Couldn't you come in like a normal person? You trying to freeze me to death? Didn't I give you some of the used deer's blood? Leo asked, puzzled. The used deer was massive, more than enough meat to share. Plus, the cold resistance it granted only took effect once. After that, it was just food. Leo had even bought some extra from Palladium. Palladium had generously given him 3 kilos of the meat, which Leo distributed to both Jerka and Dean Onlai. Yeah, I took it, Jerka muttered. If I hadn't, I'd be dead by now in this weather. But the effect wasn't as strong as you claimed. Really? Might be a physical compatibility thing, Leo considered aloud. Stronger, healthier individuals seemed to gain more resistance after consuming it. Jerka was over 60. Tough, sure, but riddled with minor health issues. That kind of body likely wouldn't benefit as much. It's fine. I just need to survive this winter. Jerka squinted and took a swig of rum. Next winter won't be as cold. I won't be alive for the next far west cold snap anyway. All right, Leo said simply. He'd also asked Jerka and Dean Onlai whether they wanted to awaken Nen. After learning the risks, both declined. They were realistic, and neither believed they'd survive the opening of their aura nodes. Ease up on the booze. Don't get so drunk you can't hold chopsticks, Leo said as he headed for the kitchen. TCH, please. Jerka puffed up his chest. I drink wine like water. Gulp gulp gulp. He downed a bottle of rum on the spot. See? Jerka turned the empty bottle upside down proudly. Leo didn't bother to respond. But then, Jerka suddenly froze. His smile vanished the moment he got a proper look at Leo. A strange feeling crept over him. As if this young man no longer belonged in the room. As if he didn't belong anywhere. What's going on? Jerka rubbed his face, sobering up. He got up from the recliner and entered the kitchen, approaching Leo from behind. Seeing him up close made it even more unsettling. Jerka saw something in Leo's eyes. Coldness. Distance. Detachment. A quiet, unreachable void. It was like he wasn't part of this town, this world. Kid. What happened to you? Jerka finally asked, frowning. Leo didn't answer directly. I'm leaving. So soon? Jerka's brow furrowed deeper. He glanced outside. The snow was heavy. Roads were buried. Why not wait until spring? At least then the roads won't kill you. It's time. Leo shook his head. You. Jerka wanted to object. To say something, anything. But the look in Leo's eyes. That strange, distant aura. It silenced him. He could no longer speak. Chapter 32. After lunch, Leo left town and stopped by a local shop to purchase supplies, a finely forged katana, a pistol, 100 rounds of ammunition, a portable medical kit, and other necessities. Technically, pistols weren't for sale, but with Palladium's recommendation, the firm handed it over without issue. He also deposited the remaining 30 million Jenny into a V5 issued bank card. Palladium helped him obtain a new identity card as well. Take care, Mr. Onlai. Jerka. Leo waved casually to the two who had come to see him off and walked out of town without looking back. His farewell was informal, almost childish in its simplicity. He left abruptly, with no warning. Only Dean Onlai and Jerka had come to see him off. It felt unnatural. Yet somehow, it suited him perfectly. The two older men looked at each other, recognizing the same unspoken feeling in each other's eyes. So it wasn't just me, Jerka, Onlai murmured, frowning. I felt it too, Jerka nodded slowly, staring after Leo's retreating silhouette with a complex expression. That kid. He's like a lone wolf now. Exactly, Onlai agreed with a heavy nod, visibly shaken. A scholar by trade, Onlai had never encountered true danger in his life. But Leo's presence, just moments ago, had radiated something primal. Something lethal. His body had tensed instinctively. His heartbeat had surged. It felt as if, with the smallest misstep, Leo could have taken his life. Don't overthink it, Onlai, Jerka said, pulling his gaze back. The kid's only been here half a month, and in that short time, he went from a skinny drifter to someone who can hunt a gloomy deer alone. That kind of talent. It doesn't belong in a small town like this. He's too strong. His leaving is best for everyone. A place like Shangshan City was too small to contain someone like Leo. Someone like him needed a larger stage. You're right, Onlai sighed, resigning himself to that truth. They watched Leo vanish into the snowy distance. Then quietly returned to town. Outside Shangshan City, Leo's solitary life began. Normal people followed the road. Rested at inns. stayed in cities between journeys. Leo didn't. He walked in a straight line toward his goal, climbing mountains, wading through rivers. Cities and wilderness alike were just background. No comfort. No deviation. This wandering mirrored the oath he had taken. Stranger. He was like a ghost in a foreign land. A silent shadow drifting alone across the earth. Every second of his life was a struggle against nature. Or in other words, a constant trial. In just 2 months, my aura capacity increased from 5.5 to 8. Then started slowing. Leo could clearly feel his progress. Even if it slowed, that's only compared to these 2 months. It's still far faster than back in Shangshan. By his estimate, he was gaining 1 unit of aura per month. That was extraordinary. Most Nen users had to train relentlessly to achieve that kind of growth. But for Leo, this wandering, trial-filled life was its own kind of hardship training. That was the benefit of the oath. When one made a strict oath, and lived by it, growth became exponential. Of course, the cost is also high. The risks are greater. It's easier to die. Leo understood that perfectly. But so what? A smile tugged at his lips. His eyes burned with certainty. If I can't keep moving forward, then I'd rather die. With resolve beyond what normal people could comprehend, he viewed the entire world as a training ground. And walked through it with zero hesitation. Not mad. Not reckless. But committed, completely. 30 kilometers to Kent City, Leo murmured, eyes narrowing. According to the data I found on the dark web, last year's Hunter exam was issue number 286. This year is number 287, the one where Gon and the others take part. He tapped his chin thoughtfully. If I remember right, the exam starts with finding a secret code to board a ship at Dore Port. After arriving, you meet a guide, then head to the site of the first phase. Leo was planning to become a licensed hunter. The license had immense value. Free access to 95% of public facilities. Ability to enter 90% of restricted nations. Permission to visit 75% of danger zones. Exclusive access to databases, black market connections, and special commissions. For someone like Leo, it would eliminate a mountain of red tape. More importantly, the Hunter Association's president was Isaac Netero, the world's strongest Nen user and founder of Shingen Ryu. The Mijigoshi-style training method was born from that school. Leo had learned Nen from basic theory and instinct. His training was crude, pieced together from fragments of memory and raw trial and error. It worked, but it was far from efficient. Given time, he could reverse engineer Nen systems. But it would take years. If the Hunter Association had structured, advanced training, why waste time? Leo grinned to himself. Guess I'll take this year's Hunter exam. I already know the ship leaves from Dore Port, so there's no need to go to Kent City to find the code. I'll board directly. In the middle of the wilderness, his voice echoed softly through the snow-covered trees. As for Gon? Doesn't matter. Leo was indifferent. To him, the protagonist of the original story was just another person. Even if they crossed paths, he wouldn't go out of his way to befriend him. He'd treat him like any other traveler. Everyone is the protagonist of their own story. When one sets out on a journey, others become scenery. Especially for Leo, who had taken the oath of stranger. He was destined to walk alone. Without companions. On the other hand, Gon's father, Jing freaks. Leo's smile widened. One of the 5 most powerful Nen users in the world, that man interests me. Maybe someday. He and Jing would walk side by side, even temporarily. Exploring the Dark Continent. Hey hunters. Just a quick break. Hope y'all are enjoying this fanfic. Let's keep going. Chapter 33. Just keep walking. Leo holstered his pistol and continued on his path. Behind him, a massive red mantis, the size of an elephant, lay lifeless on the ground. A small, precise bullet hole marked the center of its forehead, blood still trickling down. This creature was a rare species known as the red wild mantis, a towering predator with terrifying jumping power and limited flight ability. Its forelimbs were like two massive scythes, sharp enough to slice through tree trunks like butter. In this forest, it was the uncontested apex predator. Everything that moved was prey. Even crocodiles and pythons, dominant species in nearby lakes, couldn't withstand a slash from its blade-like arms. But now, this terrifying creature had become a silent corpse. It had died from a single bullet to the head, fired by Leo. Since leaving Shangshan City, Leo had climbed mountains, crossed valleys, and slain countless powerful beasts with his pistol. Gila monsters, saber-toothed tigers, horned serpents, two-legged lizards that resembled Godzilla. The red wild mantis was just the latest. Almost out of bullets now. But at least my body finally remembers the training. Leo's tone was light. His steps quickened with satisfaction. City of Kent. Thanks to the massive Port d'Oreille, Kent had flourished as a trade hub, accumulating wealth and traffic. And now, with the hunter exam approaching, a flood of visitors had poured into the city. These outsiders brought vitality, but also disorder. Leorio, what are you looking at? At a street stall, a man in a suit was studying a newspaper intently. A boy in green tugged at his sleeve, curious. I'm gathering intel on the city, gone. Leorio didn't look up as he answered. The people taking the hunter exam are powerful. But with power comes indulgence. Look at this, crime in Kent jumped from 14% to 32% in just a month. Whoa. That's more than double. Gon gaped. Exactly. Leorio nodded seriously. That's why we need to stay low. No flashy spending. No dark alleys. No unnecessary conflicts. And definitely no drinking ourselves into trouble. Gon nodded solemnly. Leorio was more experienced. It made sense to listen. Like that guy, for instance. Leorio tilted his chin toward the left. Gon turned. Roughly 20 meters away, a young man, about 17 or 18, stepped out of a souvenir shop. He wore short boots, a traveler's jacket, a sword at his waist, and a suitcase slung over his shoulder. He looked like a typical artistic wanderer. What he's doing right now is very dangerous. Leorio adjusted his glasses. The young man, Leo, smiled and pulled out his wallet at the shopkeeper's urging. It was stuffed with thick wads of high-denomination bills. A rough estimate, well over 1 million jenny. Flashing that much cash in public? He's basically inviting thieves, Leorio sighed. Guy's definitely green. He noticed a group of suspicious men across the street already eyeing Leo. That makes sense. Gon nodded, making a mental note. Under the watchful gaze of the two, Leo remained carefree. He handed the shopkeeper a large roll of jenny, declined the change, and walked away with a beaded necklace. His casual generosity only sharpened the predatory eyes watching from the shadows. Easy prey. Not far off, 3 shady figures exchanged glances and grinned maliciously. Come again. The shopkeeper beamed, happily sending off his high-spending customer. Leo waved politely and left. At the same time, the 3 men followed him, slipping into step behind him as he turned down a quiet alley. Another mistake, Leorio muttered. Never take deserted routes, especially when you've just flashed cash. He started walking toward the alley. Leorio might not have known the stranger, but his conscience wouldn't let him ignore what he'd seen. His dream was to become a doctor, one who treated the poor for free, so tragedies like his friend Piero's death wouldn't happen again. Wait. Gon grabbed Leorio's arm. What is it? Leorio turned, confused. That guy is strong, Gon said simply. He doesn't need our help. Leorio hesitated. He hadn't sensed anything special about the boy, but Gon had that uncanny intuition. He could smell strength with eerie precision. Look. Gon gestured to the alley. Leorio followed his gaze, and his eyes widened. Help! A man burst from the alley, screaming. It was one of the 3 thugs who'd followed Leo. Terror twisted his face as he sprinted away. I made it. I'm safe. Relief flooded his eyes. Slap. A hand appeared behind him and grabbed his head. Where do you think you're going? Leo's calm voice echoed beside the man's ear. Question mark. The thug's pupils shrank. You are. With a sharp motion, Leo dragged him back into the alley. Their figures vanished from sight. Only screams remained. Ah! Pedestrians around the alley flinched. Most instinctively backed away. Leorio stood frozen. He couldn't believe what he'd seen. Gon had been right, Leo was strong. In fact, he'd never needed help at all. If anything, it was the 3 criminals who should have been pitied. His body's totally relaxed. His face calm. Gon observed. It's not that he's inexperienced, he just doesn't care. Leorio let out a dry chuckle. Man. I really misread that one. Chapter 34. In the alley. Leo held the man by the neck like a kitten, dragging him deeper into the shadows. Boom. He casually flung him against the wall. The man slumped to the ground like a rag doll, sliding down lifelessly. Next to him, the other 2 thugs huddled together, shivering in terror. Continue. Leo flashed a warm smile. But to the 2 men, that smile felt like the devil's grin. Their bodies trembled even harder. I know. A bunch of lockpicking techniques. One of them stammered, voice nearly cracking with fear. Leo nodded, then looked at the other man. And you? What are you good for? The man visibly flinched under Leo's gaze. Goosebumps rose on his skin. I know some pickpocketing tricks, he blurted. Explain. Leo stood tall, gazing down at him with curiosity. Why yes. Pale and stuttering, the man began speaking. There was no reason to resist. Before entering the alley, they'd thought they'd cornered a big, rich fool. Instead, they'd walked into a lion's den. He'd knocked out 2 of them in an instant, then broken their wrists. The third tried to flee, only to be dragged back like prey. The golden touch. Cloud palm technique. Rope binding. As Leo listened, his expression shifted from amusement to mild surprise. Quite the poetic names for street tricks. The 2 men laughed nervously. They hadn't invented the names, just heard them elsewhere and adopted them for flair. But your execution is sloppy, Leo said, disappointed. The 2 opened their mouths but didn't defend themselves. These tricks were half-baked, rarely used. Why pick locks or lift wallets when it was faster to mug someone? Still, for some reason, this terrifying man was genuinely interested. Behind him, the man Leo had tossed against the wall groaned and stirred. He'd passed out earlier from a carotid artery choke, lack of oxygen to the brain. Now, groggy, he opened his eyes. And the first thing he saw was Leo. Don't kill me. Please don't kill me. I'll do anything. Just don't kill me. Tears and snot poured freely from his face as he begged. Anything, huh? Leo smiled again. Then tell me, what skills do you have? Huh? The man blinked in confusion, frozen. More than 10 minutes later. Leo walked out of the alley, flexing his fingers thoughtfully. 18 variations of the golden touch. Cloud palm technique. Rope binding. He had extracted every useful detail from the 3. The techniques were crude, yes, but there were useful components. finger flexibility and precision, reflex training, rope handling techniques with practical application. For most people, mastering these would take months, even years. Leo? He'd learned all three in under 25 minutes. That's the power of the oath, he thought. His stranger's oath interpreted even this kind of street encounter as a trial. And once passed, it rewarded him with the ability to absorb these skills at high speed. Still, can something so trivial even be called a trial? Trials were supposed to be difficult, weren't they? The kind of challenge where one had to fight evenly matched opponents or use all one's strength to survive. But the moment Leo asked that question, something clicked. If three travel together, one must be the teacher. If only powerful enemies qualified as trial-worthy, then what even defines a powerful person? Pure strength? No. Obviously not. In the world of Nen, many powerful individuals didn't specialize in brute force. Krilo Lucifer, for example. His physical strength was average. His Nen ability, skill hunter, required intricate conditions just to steal techniques. And yet, he had the intelligence and foresight to kill Hisoka, one of the most lethal assassins alive. Was Krilo not strong? Of course he was. So then, strength isn't just about power. It's about what I lack. The revelation struck deep. Anyone who surpasses me in any field is, to me, a strong person. That's it. That's the true essence of a trial. The moment he understood, his thoughts cleared, his aura surged. His aura volume increased by 1 unit. From 8 to 9. Ha 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 ha. That's it. Leo suddenly burst into laughter, ignoring the many pedestrians around him. This is what growth feels like. Think. Learn. Sharpen. Internalize. Then, evolve. He laughed freely, chest rising with pure energy. His will crystallized. His life pulsed with focus. Pedestrians scattered. What's wrong with that guy? Is he insane? Don't look at him, he might snap. Creepy. Let's go. They avoided him like a plague. Their eyes were full of fear, confusion, rejection. But Leo didn't care. He walked on, toward Port Doré, the harbor of Kent City, where the Hunter Association ship awaited. The ship. It was a massive, multi-masted sailing vessel with a sharp bow. To the untrained eye, it looked like any other cargo ship, blending in among the port's many transports. Only those who had solved the riddle knew. This was the Hunter Association's exam ship. The captain stood at the rail, a short man with rosacea, a pipe in his mouth, and eyes that shone with hidden sharpness despite his 60-odd years. He glanced toward the dock, and raised an eyebrow. A young man walked briskly up, murmured, "This must be the Hunter exam ship," and boarded without hesitation. "That was fast," the captain muttered, watching him. "You're the first applicant to board." He studied the boy, Leo, but saw nothing remarkable on the surface. "The ship departs in 8 hours. You're free to use all onboard facilities. Meals are provided. But fighting is forbidden, and any damages must be paid for." Chapter 35. Okay. Leo nodded. After the captain finished explaining the ship's rules, he lost interest in Leo. The kid didn't look like the troublesome type anyway. And even if something did happen, the Hunter Association had agents aboard who could handle it. Hey. Let's hope someone breaks the rules. The captain smirked and turned back into the cabin. He didn't notice Leo scanning the ship. Leo's gaze briefly paused on a specific spot. Then moved on without a trace. There, sitting alone, was a woman in smoky eye makeup, piercings, and a leather jacket, warily sipping from a can of beer. She was with the Hunter Association. He said I was the first to board, so she must be staff. Leo glanced at her, then dismissed the thought. Too weak. From a combat perspective, she only had about 3 units of aura. She'd burned through her energy after activating Nen once or twice. Leo didn't sense the slightest threat, he could easily overpower her. Still, to normal people, a Nen user with even 3 units of aura was extremely impressive. The kind of person mob bosses and corporate tycoons would pay handsomely to hire. But in the hunter world, especially next to someone like Leo, she was ordinary. Very ordinary. Let's see what else this ship has. Leo stretched his arms and wandered toward a group of sailors who were chatting. Mind if I join you? He approached with a smile and pulled out several packs of snacks from his backpack, peanuts, dried squid, and pickled vegetables. The kind of stuff that went well with cheap rum. The sailors welcomed him instantly. Before long, Leo was sitting shoulder to shoulder with them, sipping low-grade rum and swapping stories. Months of survival in the wild had sharpened him, but it hadn't dulled his social instincts. His coldness was now buried beneath a more refined, approachable facade. Haven't seen a woman in months. Right? You'll go crazy out here at sea. Once I save up, I'm going back home to get married. Bah, marriage is boring. A real man sets sail. Me, I'm saving for my own boat. The sailors bantered and laughed. And Leo, listening attentively, absorbed it all. He picked up little pieces of knowledge about life at sea, ship structure, sailing jargon, and human nature. An hour later, the captain stepped out for a smoke, and paused. A group of rowdy sailors were drinking and chatting. Nothing strange there. Except... Wait a minute. The captain squinted. Among them, laughing, drinking, relaxed, was the first candidate who'd boarded the ship. His tone, posture, even expressions mirrored the others. At a glance, you'd think he was one of the crew. Information gathering? The captain raised an eyebrow, impressed. A candidate who could blend in so quickly and extract intel this naturally? Not bad. He silently approved. Even though the sailors didn't have access to key exam data, the initiative itself showed solid instincts. More and more examinees began arriving as they deciphered the code. Wait, we're taking a boat? Where even is the testing site? Seriously? Can't they just pick one place each year? What's the point of this stupid riddle? Some complained. Some were curious. Others stayed quiet. But no one caused trouble. They all knew better. The code decryption step was a filter. It eliminated the reckless, the impulsive, and the foolish, leaving behind the careful, the clever, and the lucky. As candidates boarded, the captain occasionally glanced back at Leo. How do you steer this kind of ship? What's the proper way to climb the mainsail halyard? That crow's nest, is it just for observation or something else too? Leo was peppering the crew with questions, navigators, helmsmen, riggers alike. Like a wide-eyed student. What is this guy? The captain was growing increasingly curious. Most candidates saw the ship as a waiting room. Leo saw it as a treasure trove. He was a land animal, ignorant of the sea. But rather than hide that, he attacked it with fascination. To him, the sailors were the experts. And that made them, in his eyes, the strong. In exchange, the place I set foot becomes a trial. Every person I meet is part of the trial. Every second I live is either in a trial, or on the way to one. The oath echoed in Leo's mind. He had no intention of violating his own code. Understanding what made someone strong had transformed his worldview. Now, anything unknown became something to pursue. Teach me how to tie rigging knots. Wow, you noticed the storm front just from that ripple? Amazing. Your arms. Those muscles are unreal. You are like a living anchor. His flattery was crude, but sincere. And the sailors, flattered, began to teach him bits and pieces of their trade. He even got invited to dine with them. At dinner, they offered him a special treat, smoked shark meat. Everyone knew. Shark meat reeked of ammonia, since sharks release urea through their skin. It was an acquired taste, to say the least. Leo took a bite. The corners of his eyes twitched. Still, with sheer willpower, he chewed, swallowed, and exhaled sharply toward the snickering sailors. Bleg. Uck. Gross. A chorus of gagging followed as several of them broke down laughing and retching at the same time. Leo's reaction was right on the edge, neither macho nor pathetic. Perfect for this band of seafaring bachelors. That night, they embraced him like one of their own. Walking side by side, they shared with Leo an enthusiastic lecture on women from different cities. A sailor's crude but treasured guidebook. The East Coast Girls Tasting Manual, Chapter 36. Phew. Made it just in time. That was way too close. Just as the ship set sail, Gon and Leorio arrived, late. Using Gon's fishing rod, they latched onto a protruding rock on the shoreline, then used the momentum of the line to swing themselves onto the ship where the hunter exam was taking place. Many candidates already on board were stunned. Just watching that stunt made their skin crawl. If the line had snapped mid-swing, or if their angle had been slightly off, they could have slammed into the rocks and been shattered to pieces. Made it, huh? On the deck, Kurapika spared the two a glance before turning away. At this point, he hadn't joined their group yet. Meanwhile, Leo was locked in intense battle with the sails. "All right, everyone, back to your posts." The captain barked orders as the ship pulled away. "Destination, Dolly Island." "Aye, sir." The sailors replied in unison. The captain nodded, then blinked, frowning. "Huh? What was that voice just now?" He looked toward the source and saw something odd. "What the?" Among the sailors hauling on the rigging was Leo. The very first exam candidate to board the ship was now pulling ropes and working the sails like he'd been doing it for years. "What's going on?" The captain rubbed his eyes and looked again. Sure enough, Leo was still there, scaling the mainmast with ease, climbing up to the crow's nest, peering ahead through a spyglass someone had clearly handed him. "Captain. Channel's clear," Leo reported down with confidence. "Roger that," the captain replied instinctively. Then froze. "Wait. Where's my navigator?" He looked around. Only to see his actual navigator had climbed up after Leo, taken the spyglass, and gave a nod of approval. "Not bad, kid." Question mark. The captain was officially confused. Was this guy an examinee? Or had he hired a new crew member and forgotten? Whatever the case, Leo had completely blended in. Boom. Clouds rolled in. Winds howled. Lightning split the sky, followed by deafening thunder. A torrential storm was coming. Sea weather changes fast. The captain muttered, face tense. For the candidates, it was utter chaos. The deck lurched. Waves slammed the hull. Rain poured in sheets. The ship tilted dangerously. The deck slicked with water. People were falling left and right. Many hit the ground hard. Some felt nausea rising fast. But among the seasick, bruised candidates, Leo looked completely out of place. He stood effortlessly on the rocking deck, laughing and chatting with the sailors like they were having a casual picnic. "Are those two insane?" a sailor muttered, pointing. Leorio and Kurapika were still arguing, even as the weather worsened. Ideological friction, the usual. One was driven by revenge. The other sought wealth to fund free healthcare. Neither liked the other's reasoning. Leo noticed too. Ah, right. He remembered this scene from the original story. The captain had asked each candidate why they wanted to be a hunter. Kurapika answered seriously. Leorio deflected. Tension flared. When Leo had been asked the same question, he simply said, "The license lets you travel anywhere." A noncommittal answer, enough to pass. The Hunter Association didn't demand virtue. Just conviction. Big wave incoming. A sailor called out grimly. Everyone tensed. Ahead, a towering wave began to rise, several meters high and barreling straight at the ship. Splash. Water exploded across the deck. The ship tilted hard, almost 90 degrees. Ah! Several crew members near the crow's nest lost their footing, thrown into the air. Not good. The captain's face paled. In a storm like this, falling overboard was almost certainly fatal. On deck, Kurapika and Leorio moved first. They lunged toward the side, gripping the railing with one hand and reaching for the airborne crew with the other. But, they missed. Their hands were just inches short. Damn it! Both of their eyes widened in horror. Whoosh! Suddenly, a green blur shot past them. Gone! Leorio and Kurapika shouted in unison. The boy had leapt straight off the ship, launching himself toward the airborne sailors. Snap! Snap! At the same time, Leo moved. Two thick hemp ropes whipped through the air, one wrapping around the waist of the falling sailor, the other coiling perfectly around Gon. It was the rope binding technique he'd recently learned. The precision was flawless. What the? Even the sailors were stunned. No one had expected Leo to react so fast, or with such perfect control. Help! Grab the ropes. Careful, the deck's soaked. The crew scrambled to assist. But before any of them could even touch the ropes, Leo gave a light tug. Both ropes snapped taut, and in one effortless motion, he reeled Gon and the sailor back onto the deck like they weighed nothing. So strong. Everyone stared in disbelief. Gon was just a kid, sure. But that sailor? He was a fully grown man, over 160 kilograms, tossed by the wind. And Leo had pulled both of them back single-handedly. Effortlessly. Has this candidate already mastered Nen? The woman from the Hunter Association, the one with the smoky makeup and piercings, lowered her drink. Her gaze sharpened. No. This feels different. His aura. It's far greater than mine. Even without using N, a trained Nen user could often feel the pressure of another's presence. It was a gut instinct. A predator's sense. And right now, Leo's presence was unmistakable. She swallowed slowly, eyes locked on him. This kid is dangerous. Chapter 37. In the woman's instinctive perception, Leo's aura was several times greater than her own. If her Nen was like a shallow pool, then Leo was a vast lake. Just being near him made her feel like she could drown under the weight of it. This is comparable to a veteran hunter in the association. She muttered in disbelief. Suddenly, Leo turned and met her gaze. Exclamation mark! The woman flinched. Her heart skipped a beat. He saw me? But Leo just gave a small nod and a polite smile, then looked away. She exhaled in relief. Incredible perception. I didn't even release any aura. She had no idea that Leo had noticed her presence the moment he boarded. He simply chose to act indifferent, until her staring became too obvious. That brief eye contact had been a gentle warning, I see you. Elsewhere on the deck, Leorio and Kurapika climbed back aboard, relieved that Gon and the crewmen were safe. That's him. Leorio muttered, glancing toward Leo. Who? Kurapika asked, curious. Gon and I met him in Kent City. He was being tailed by 3 thugs. I was about to step in, but he dealt with them in an instant. Leorio's voice held a mix of respect and awe. After witnessing Leo's calm, efficient rescue during the storm, any prior doubts about him had vanished. No one who acted with such instinct to save another could be a bad person. Clearly, money and revenge weren't the only kinds of motivation for becoming a hunter. I see. Kurapika nodded thoughtfully. Huh? Leorio suddenly gasped. Leo had glanced back, and nodded. That single gesture left Leorio stunned. He remembered. That nod wasn't random. It was Leo's subtle way of acknowledging the moment in Kent City. A silent thank you for Leorio's willingness to help, even though it hadn't been needed. Leo didn't dismiss kindness, even when he didn't require it. The ship continued toward its destination. After the chaos of the storm, the weather cleared. A calm, bright sky replaced the downpour. Because of their efforts during the crisis, Leorio and Kurapika passed the captain's trial. And finally, the ship reached Dali Island. The port was packed. Leo counted over 20 ships docked, each unloading hundreds of candidates. This was just one of the many hunter exam starting points spread across the nation. Only those who had passed the preliminary trial and found a guide were allowed here. I remember. There are 2 routes from here, Leo recalled. At the top of a nearby hill stood a lone tree. Climb the mountain for the shortcut, or take the bus for the long route. But either way, you end up going up the mountain to find the real exam location. The bus route is basically baked. He wasn't planning to take shortcuts. That would go against his oath. Every person and every event I encounter is part of my trial. Skipping the mountain would mean skipping key events. Like the 2-answer question from the old woman, and the test involving the Foxbear family. Avoiding them would be an escape. And in Nen, self-deception was meaningless. If I think it's an escape, then it is one. Leo couldn't lie to himself. Besides, I'm curious. What question will I get from the old lady? He smiled faintly, remembering the original scenario. The question posed to Gon and the others had been: your mother and your girlfriend have both been kidnapped. You can only save one. Who do you choose? Silence was the correct answer. Choosing either was wrong. Only refusing to answer showed judgment. Hey, Mr. Leo. A bright voice called out. Leo looked up to see Gon, Leorio, and Kurapika jogging toward him. You know my name? Leo raised a brow. The sailors told us, Gon grinned. I never got a chance to thank you properly. You saved me back on the ship, thanks. He bowed deeply, sincere. It's nothing, Leo said casually. Your friends would have caught you anyway. Still, he gave a polite nod to Leorio and Kurapika. Even so, I wanted to say it. Gon beamed. Leorio and Kurapika chimed in. I'm Leorio. My dream is to become a rich doctor and help those who can't afford treatment. I'm Kurapika. I just want the convenience of a hunter license. Typical Japanese-style self-introductions, dreams included. Leo didn't share the custom. He simply nodded and said, I'm Leo. Kurapika and Leorio exchanged glances. There was a definite coldness about him. A chill in his voice. A wall in his tone. They immediately got the impression. Hard to get close to. Hey, Leo. Gon, unbothered, continued enthusiastically. The captain said going up the mountain is a shortcut to Sabia City. Want to go together? Leorio and Kurapika twitched slightly. Gon. Not everyone is a good team candidate. That look passed silently between them. I know the route. But I'll take it alone. Leo declined without hesitation. Okay. Gon didn't press, just smiled. Then I'll see you in Sabia City. Leo gave him a faint smile, turned, and walked away. Gon waved after him. He's cold. Leorio adjusted his glasses. Feels like he has no interest in people, Kurapika said. I've seen that before. Some people only see others as tools, Or obstacles? Arrogant? Leorio muttered. No. It didn't feel like arrogance. Just disinterest. Chapter 38. Really? Leorio glanced at Kurapika in surprise. The two didn't talk much as they watched Leo's figure disappear into the commercial street at the mountain's base. They then began discussing which route to take. Eventually, Leorio chose to take the bus alone. Kurapika and Gon, meanwhile, went up the mountain with a talkative candidate who struck up a conversation. Commercial Street. Leo had already parted ways with them. He wandered into the commercial district, picked a nice-looking restaurant, had a sumptuous lunch, then booked a room to take a proper shower. He had enough of life at sea. The ship's supplies were all dry goods, jerky, pickled vegetables, fried rations, and biscuits made from soy and lentils. No fresh fruit. No clean water either, only low-grade rum. Leo could endure harsh conditions. But self-punishment was never the point. So the moment he landed, he ate well, rested, and paid homage to what he jokingly called the Temple of Five Internal Organs. This isn't breaking my oath. He towel-dried his hair and began stretching on the bed, his muscles stiff from the storm. The flexibility poses, similar to yoga, had been taught to him by the ship's first mate. Just like in games. After a dungeon, you return to town to repair gear and sell loot, right? Leo even took a half-hour nap. After waking, he visited a weapons shop and picked out a new pistol. Czech CZ-83. Sleek black carbon steel, elegant lines, durable design. Leo fell in love at first sight and bought it to replace the old one. Only then did he begin his ascent up the mountain. Though he was the last to depart, Leo's speed was monstrous. The moment he entered the mountain trail, his explosive strength, endurance, and agility were on full display. Beasts that had been attacking other candidates fled at the scent of his presence. The monsters feared him. Instinctively. They could sense his murderous aura, his nen laced with killing intent, and wanted nothing to do with it. Too weak, Leo thought as he moved. Such minimal malice was enough to drive them off. These mountain beasts, though fearsome in appearance, lacked the resilience to face a proper nen user. Of course. This is still a pre-exam phase. They can't throw life-threatening enemies at candidates who haven't even learned nen yet. I'm far beyond the average applicant. Leo soon crested a ridge and arrived at a decaying town, a checkpoint on the shortcut path. The buildings were falling apart. Walls had cracked wide open, exposing rusting rebar. The roads were nothing but rubble. Calling it an abandoned town was generous. It looked more like a war ruin. This is the town with the trick question trial. Leo walked in without hesitation. Another one showed up. He looks cocky. Just walked in without hesitation. At least now we've got a guinea pig. From outside the ruins, several candidates watched Leo coldly. They hadn't dared enter. Something about the place gave them a bad feeling. So they waited, hoping someone else would test the waters. Every year, people died in the Hunter exam. The association never targeted anyone maliciously, but it also didn't shield the unprepared. Leo, however, knew better. This checkpoint wasn't deadly. The real test was a riddle posed by a strange old woman. Even a wrong answer would let you pass, just not by the optimal route. Wee-yay. Ha ha ha. Wee. Suddenly, children in white cloth ghost costumes popped out from every alley and corner. Like Halloween spirits, they giggled and danced, forming a wall around Leo. He watched them with a faint smile. Nen beasts? He could sense it. They weren't real children. These were conjured nen constructs. Then. Tap, tap, tap. An old woman hobbled out on a cane. Oh my. Another confident one. She squinted at Leo. This young man seems well versed in Nen. Leo merely shrugged and smiled. Normally, you'd need to answer my question to pass, she said. But in your case, young man, you can go right through. She stepped aside. But Leo didn't move. He glanced down the open path, not the one that led directly to the summit. Instead, he turned toward a side street, blocked by a steel gate embedded into a fake storefront. At a glance, it looked like nothing. But Leo knew, it was a disguised elevator that led directly to the mountaintop. That was the path Gon and the others had taken in the original. Sharp, aren't you? The old woman chuckled. You found the hidden door. But that one doesn't open unless you answer correctly. Leo folded his arms. Then give me a question. There's no point. She shook her head. Every question in the Hunter exam is part screening, part guidance. The association doesn't tell you what's right, but it does warn you what's wrong. Don't go down the wrong path. Leo mulled over the wording. They weren't demanding correctness. They were filtering out recklessness. The association respected a hunter's free will. Just like Netero, its founder, a man of unmatched strength and equally unmatched humility. He let the Shingen-ryu martial art fade naturally. He didn't cling to legacy. Only a few disciples like Biscuit and Wing carried it on. And that was fine by him. Leo deeply admired that. But you, young man. The old woman's eyes sharpened. You've already chosen your path. One's demeanor can be faked, but not the look in their eyes. You've seen your truth. You don't need our guidance. She pointed down the original road. Take this path. It's not the secret shortcut, but it leads to the summit. And no monster on it can stop you. Leo gave a respectful nod, then started walking. He didn't need the easy path. His oath wouldn't allow it anyway. Chapter 39. Leo looked at the old woman with a hint of surprise. It was the first time someone had said they could see realization in his eyes. People in this world are sharp in the strangest ways, Leo mused silently. He gave the old woman a small wave, then headed up the mountain path. Behind him, she watched his retreating figure and murmured. Netero. Another one worth watching this year. He carries a cold aura. Very much like you did when you were young. Leo didn't mind that she never asked him a question. If the test was bypassed, so be it. The path she offered led to the summit all the same. Though more rugged, it was nothing he couldn't handle. By the time Leo reached the top, the sun had set and the moon was rising. He stood beneath the lone tree at the mountain peak, gazing up. The stars and moon hung together in the sky, an unusual sight. On Earth, starlight usually outshines the moon only after it sets. But this wasn't Earth. This was the Hunter x Hunter world. Astrophysics didn't apply here. Leo's mind wandered as he walked. The monsters on the path had sensed the malicious aura he released and all scattered long before he arrived. He hadn't even fought anyone. Just walked, bored, through the mountain for hours. No one's here? He approached the tree and saw a worn-down wooden cabin nearby. This was the home of the Foxbear family. There were usually 4 of them, father, mother, brother, and sister. Beast-type Nen users with the ability to mimic humans. They existed to test arriving candidates. Leo glanced around. Blood stains, and bandage scraps. He crouched near the door and observed the scene. Looks like they're testing Gon's group right now. In the original story, the Foxbear family tested Leorio's medical intuition, Kurapika's perception, Gon's agility. In that case, I'll ride their coattails. Leo smirked, rubbing his chin. He remembered the family would carry the candidates straight to Sabia City once they passed. Despite being called foxbears, they looked more like a blend between a red 9-tailed fox and a bat. Sleek crimson fur, elongated eyes, sharp claws and teeth, and powerful hind legs built for leaping. They should be over there. He sensed movement from deeper in the forest and set off. A few minutes later, he spotted the foxbear family gathered around Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio. They were chatting peacefully. Looks like they passed. Leo smiled and began walking toward them. As Kurapika said, "This tattoo is a vow of religious servitude." The sister foxbear raised her hand and explained the symbol on her wrist. "It's been so long, I've forgotten its meaning. But your insight and knowledge are admirable. You saw through our ruse. Careful." Suddenly, the parents stiffened. The father stepped forward, pulling his daughter behind him. "A strong malevolent aura is approaching." Malevolent aura? Gon and the others were confused, but judging by the foxbear's tension, something serious was happening. Then, they looked in the same direction and spotted a familiar figure. Leo? 100 meters away, the young man waved and walked toward them with a relaxed smile. His steps were slow and measured, yet each footfall seemed to cover an impossible distance. In 5 or 6 seconds, he had crossed the entire field. "Didn't expect to run into you here." Leo greeted them with an easy smile, eyes calmly scanning the foxbear family. But the beasts all froze. Their hackles raised. Muscles tensed. Pupils dilated. Growl. The parents instinctively took defensive stances, stepping forward to shield the younger two. The siblings bared their teeth and crouched low, ready to strike. "What's going on?" Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio were stunned. The foxbears were clearly reacting to danger, but they couldn't feel anything threatening at all. "Sorry," Leo said, raising his hands. "Just some residual malice I used to keep monsters away on the way up." "Residual malice?" The father narrowed his eyes. As beast-type Nen users, their instincts were sharper than any humans. What they felt from Leo wasn't just lingering aura. It was lethal. Like a predator who had no fear of death. Like a demon in human skin. Cold. Cruel. Vicious. His presence alone felt like it could kill. "That's your idea of deterrence?" They thought in unison. To them, it felt like Leo had been ready to eradicate the entire mountain. They stayed quiet a moment longer. Then the father spoke. "Are you also a candidate?" "Yes." Leo nodded politely, suppressing his aura as a show of goodwill. The malicious pressure around him dissipated, and the foxbears relaxed slightly. "I know you can fly people to the official testing site in Sabia City," Leo continued. "Could I get a lift? Or is there some test I need to pass?" The family exchanged looks. After a few whispers, the father sighed. "No test. No need." He let out a small, nervous laugh. "Frankly, we don't want to be killed by you." Kurapika and Leorio blinked. "What?" The fear in the foxbears' voices didn't sound like a joke. Leo, standing quietly beside them, seemed completely unbothered. Gon, on the other hand, nodded seriously. "Yeah. If Leo wanted to hurt someone, it'd be bad." Kurapika and Leorio turned to stare at him again. Same clothes. Same calm posture. Nothing flashy. But now they saw him differently. He'd passed the same test that had pushed them to their limits, without breaking a sweat. And apparently, the foxbears thought trying to test him would get them killed. "All right then, let's go." Leo took a step forward, then paused, eyes landing on the sister of the foxbear family. "Actually." He looked at her with a thoughtful expression. "Would you be the one to take me?" She blinked. "Me? Why me?" Leo smiled. "Because your human form happens to be my type." Chapter 40. The air fell silent. Leo's bold comment left the foxbear family wide-eyed in disbelief. Even Leorio and Kurapika were stunned. Their eyes turned unconsciously toward the foxbear sister. In her human form, she wore a dark red robe layered with a pink vest. Her long, chestnut hair fell softly to her shoulders. Her facial features were gentle, and the painted markings on her face gave her a mysterious, ethereal look, like a tulip blooming at midnight. She gave off the air of a graceful older sister. Eh? The foxbear sister flinched, looking at Leo like he was deranged. You said yourself, my human form is just an illusion. I'm not even human. Exactly, Leo replied smoothly. That's why I'm just asking you to fly me to Sabia City, not anything else. The whole foxbear family was speechless. Leorio and Kurapika both twitched at the corners of their mouths. You say things so seriously it makes them even weirder, Leorio muttered. If you ask nicely, I'll still agree, the foxbear sister grumbled with a blush. It's a shame she's not human. Gon added sincerely, a bit disappointed. Otherwise it might have worked out. Now everyone fell silent. Even the foxbear family collectively facepalmed. In the end, it was the foxbear father who flew Leo toward Sabia City. Under the night sky, the foxbears took to the air, each carrying one of the 4 candidates. The ride was uneventful. Despite the long day, Gon, Leorio, and Kurapika were too energized to sleep. The wind buffeted them midair, and being carried by talons while flying wasn't exactly comfortable. Leo, as always, treated the world as a training ground. Rest could wait. So, he struck up a conversation. You haven't learned Nen yet, right? Want to know what those malicious auras the foxbears sensed earlier were about? Yes. Gon answered immediately, eyes shining. Leorio and Kurapika exchanged glances. It was surprising to see someone as cold as Leo start a conversation. Still, their curiosity was piqued. I'm curious too, Leorio said, adjusting his glasses. But you're not going to tell us for free, are you? Kurapika asked shrewdly. What's the price? As he asked, Kurapika observed the foxbears' expressions. They continued flying without responding, acting as if the conversation didn't concern them. That alone told Kurapika something. They mentioned malice, so they clearly know about Nen. Leo's talking about it openly, and they're not stopping him. Which means Nen isn't some forbidden evil art. But for whatever reason, the foxbears can't disclose it themselves. A deduction took shape. Kurapika nodded subtly to himself. He'd hear Leo out. The price is simple, Leo said, pointing at Gon. You fight me. Then he turned to Leorio and Kurapika. And when you both learn Nen, if you're up for it, you can fight me too. Fight? Leorio and Kurapika blinked in confusion. Okay, Gon agreed instantly. Wait, Gon. Don't be so quick. Both Kurapika and Leorio stopped him at once. Huh? Gon scratched his head. But I feel like Leo just wants to spar. That's all, right? Leo, Kurapika spoke carefully. You're far stronger than us. Why bother fighting people weaker than you? Leo smiled faintly. He didn't mention his Nen vow or his philosophy of strength. Let's just say I enjoy facing interesting opponents. And I think you all have potential. He added, in case of doubt. Also, just to be clear, when I say fight, I mean a friendly match. No killing. No injuries. His voice was calm and sincere. He was genuinely curious about all 3 of them. Kurapika especially, with his chain jail, which forces enemies into Zetsu, a state of total aura loss, and is restricted solely to Phantom Troop members. Leo had even considered infiltrating the troop just to experience Kurapika's full power. As for Leorio, despite his clumsy start, Leo remembered his remote punch during the Hunter Chairman election. He'd landed a Nen-based strike on Jing freaks, and Jing instantly grasped his aura structure. Leo wanted to try the same, see if he could copy Leorio's ability through observation. Kurapika nodded slowly after exchanging a glance with Leorio. They looked toward the foxbear parents, who both gave them reassuring nods. "All right. We'll accept your offer." "Good," Leo said. "Then let's begin." He cleared his throat and began the lesson. Nen is the art of manipulating your life energy, what's known as aura. Aura exists in every living person. Most people use it unconsciously, but with training, you can control it. And once you master that control, you can shape your aura to reflect your will, emotions, and intent. This is what creates a person's unique Nen ability. Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio leaned in, hanging on every word. This was completely new territory for them. A world of hidden powers, unseen yet fundamental. Because it's innate and powerful, the Hunter Association restricts knowledge about Nen, Leo explained. It's too dangerous in the wrong hands. The trio frowned at this. "Then is it really okay for you to tell us?" Gon asked. Kurapika and Leorio shared the same concern. Leo just smirked. "I'm not an officially licensed hunter yet. So I'm not bound by their rules." He tilted his chin toward the foxbears. "They're part of the association. That's why they can't say anything." Chapter 41. Gon and the others immediately looked up. "It's like this." The foxbear couple nodded and explained, "Only candidates who pass the hunter exam are told about Nen and taught how to use it by the association." Kurapika and Leorio froze for a moment. Leorio was the first to react. "So you're saying we could learn Nen just by passing the exam?" He turned to Leo, scowling. "Then why are we trading for your information in the first place?" Leo just smiled and tossed the question back. "What do you think?" "You." Leorio gritted his teeth. "The answer's simple, Leorio," Kurapika said calmly. "If we learn Nen ahead of time, we'll have more power, and that makes passing the exam more likely, doesn't it?" He glanced at Leo for confirmation. Leo nodded. "Exactly. I'm not lying to you. It was true. Learning Nen in advance absolutely increased one's odds of passing. Even though Leo knew they would pass regardless, that was knowledge only he had. As long as I don't tell them, no one can say for sure they'll succeed." "Hey, Leo. Keep going." Gon called out. "All right." Leo continued, "There are 3 ways to awaken Nen. First, being born with it. Second, forced awakening. Third, natural awakening through training. The first is just talent. Some people are born with their aura nodes open, it's rare, but it happens. The second way is dangerous. I can force open your aura nodes, either by attacking you with aura or forcefully triggering a release. If your aura stabilizes, you awaken. If not..." Leo trailed off. "If not, what happens?" Leorio asked, nervous. "You die," Leo said bluntly. Swish. The excitement in the air instantly vanished, like a bucket of ice water had been dumped over their heads. "So, I'll be teaching you the third method, natural awakening through training," Leo said, his tone light again. He then began to explain the Shingen-Ryu basic training method, as taught by Wing in the manga. The 4 principles, basic training method 10, point, steady your mind. Focus inward and set your intention. Zetsu, suppress, learn to quiet the aura and eliminate leaks. Ren, refine, strengthen your aura output and increase volume. Hatsu, release, express your personal will through aura. This is what becomes your unique ability. Note, this version of Hatsu is not the same as the full 4 major techniques. Though the names are the same, their content differs. Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio were amazed. This was a new world, hidden behind the one they thought they knew. All 3 listened carefully, committing every detail to memory. Kurapika and Leorio asked questions frequently. Leo answered what he could. When he couldn't, he admitted it plainly. "I've only learned bits and pieces, from old books, scraps, and trial and error. I'm still figuring it out myself. That earned him a bit of side-eye from Kurapika and Leorio, but they didn't complain. Even imperfect knowledge was better than none. Up above, the fox-bear couple glanced down at Leo, their expressions subtly conflicted. Wait. Isn't this Shingen-ryu? Isn't that association property? But Leo ignored them, continuing with no shame whatsoever. Once your nen awakens, you'll move on to the four major principles, ten, zetsu, ren, and hatsu. Hatsu is the process of shaping your aura into something unique, your personal ability. That takes time, but it's the most exciting part. He paused. Of course. The advanced stuff comes at a price. Kurapika and Leorio. They both gave him a dry look, but deep down, they were grateful. Even if they failed the current exam, they now had enough knowledge to train on their own and pass in the future. Thanks, Leo, Gon said sincerely. I had no idea something so amazing even existed. Leo shook his head. No need to thank me. It was just a deal. Conversation quieted. The three boys fell silent, each mentally practicing ten, zetsu, ren, and hatsu in their own way. By the time they arrived in Sabia City, Leo used Gyo to check on their progress. To his surprise, he saw subtle threads of aura rising gently from their bodies. The leakages had already begun to stabilize. As expected of the protagonist group, Leo watched them with admiration. Gon, of course, came from the Freaks bloodline, a lineage of prodigies. His ancestor, Don Freaks, explored the Dark Continent alone and authored New World Exploration Report, still circulated today. Rumor even said he consumed a plant of longevity and was still alive out there. Kurapika and Leorio had equally strong wills. One watched his entire clan get slaughtered. The other saw his best friend die from an illness he couldn't afford to treat. Both carried pain, but turned it into fuel. That kind of will was the foundation of powerful nen. If they keep this up, they might awaken nen during the exam itself. Leo thought. The Foxbear family finally dropped them off at Sabia City. Good luck with the exam, the father said. But before flying away, the parents gave Leo a long, lingering look. There was something in their eyes, curiosity, maybe even concern. Leo remained impassive. If Netero really comes to demand royalties for the basic Shingen-ryu method, maybe I'll earn myself a fight with him. Chapter 42. That's the strongest man in human history. Who wouldn't want to fight him? It's a shame he'll die in the Chimera Ant incident. Leo thought of this and secretly frowned. A faint urgency rose in his heart. In the near future, Isaac Netero, the world's strongest nen user, would fall. If he didn't grow stronger quickly enough, he'd never get the chance to face that legend. But then, Leo's thoughts shifted. Time. Isn't racing against time just another kind of trial? A grin crept across his face. That's right. You have to learn to view the world differently. You can't be bound by narrow thinking. Next to him, Kurapika and Leorio both took a half step back. Leo's expression had changed several times in seconds, gloomy, then elated, then utterly calm. It gave off the impression of someone unhinged. It unsettled them. What do we do now? Gon asked him innocently, unfazed. Leo snapped out of his thoughts and glanced at his pocket watch. 10 o'clock. Time to rest. Get some sleep. We'll locate the examination hall tomorrow, he said. Then added with a serious tone. Also, a word of warning. Among the other applicants, there are some like me who've already awakened nen. If you're hit with an aura-infused attack before your aura nodes are fully open. He paused. You might forcibly unlock your aura nodes and trigger an uncontrolled nen awakening. Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio all tensed. They had learned from Leo earlier how dangerous that was. If the released aura couldn't be stabilized or wrapped with ten, the sudden leakage of life energy could be fatal. "Are you saying we should stop training?" Kurapika asked carefully. Leo shook his head. "If you're confident and determined, then keep going. You might awaken Nen on your own before encountering danger. Or, during the exam, you might be forced to awaken under stress." He looked at each of them seriously. "That's the risky approach. The safer route is to stop practicing for now and avoid any chance of an uncontrolled awakening." He didn't tell them what to do, he simply laid out the paths. All three went quiet, considering their options. High risk, high reward, or safety and delay. "Also," Leo said suddenly, drawing their attention again. "Gon, I think it's time to settle our deal. Now." Kurapika and Leorio looked surprised. "Why rush? The hunter exam starts tomorrow, shouldn't you rest up?" But Leo didn't even glance at them. He was watching Gon. Gon looked back, then nodded. "Okay." "Eh?" Kurapika and Leorio were speechless. "It's this late, and you're choosing now to spar?" But Gon didn't seem to care. "Good." Leo smiled, tossing his samurai sword and backpack aside. He waved Gon forward. "We'll fight right here. I'll suppress my aura output, speed, and strength to match yours. Let me see it. Let me see your ability, unpredictable action." His gaze sharpened. His usual indifference faded. In that instant, Leo transformed. The calm traveler was gone. What remained was something feral. Hungry. Like a predator tasting blood, his aura flared with violent intent. It hit Kurapika and Leorio like a tidal wave. This was what the Foxbear family felt earlier. Danger. An overwhelming sense of fear paralyzed them. They couldn't move, couldn't speak. Their muscles locked up. Kurapika opened his mouth to warn Gon. But Gon was already crouching. Focused. Unafraid. "Let's go, Leo." He launched himself forward. Wham! Their fists collided. The impact sent them both skidding back. But neither paused. They dug their heels in and charged again. Bang! 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 A furious exchange erupted under the moonlit street. Fists and feet, dodges and parries, relentless motion. Kurapika and Leorio relaxed slightly. It really was a sparring match. Leo had kept his word, he was matching Gon's level. But that bloodthirsty aura. It was still terrifying. Even though Leo wasn't attacking them, it felt like they were standing next to a beast who could tear them apart at any moment. "How many people has he killed?" Leorio murmured. "Hard to say." Kurapika's expression was grim. "But it's clear, he didn't walk this path without blood." A deep sense of awe settled over them. Leo wasn't just strong. He was dangerous. No matter how politely he smiled. No matter how restrained he acted. He was a man who could kill. Whether he chose to or not was irrelevant. The potential alone was enough to keep others wary. Hey hunters! Just a quick break. Hope y'all are enjoying this fanfic. Let's keep going. Chapter 43. Kurapika, I don't get the point of this fight. Leorio pushed up his glasses and spoke with confusion. Neither do I. Kurapika frowned, eyes fixed on the match. Boom. In the middle of the street, Leo sidestepped Gon's punch with a subtle shift of his body, then delivered a backhand strike to Gon's shoulder. The blow landed squarely where the vagus nerve was concentrated. Even with moderate force, that area could trigger a momentary blackout. Gon's body went stiff. His eyes lost focus, and he nearly collapsed. But in the very next second, he shook it off with a shout. Ha! And slammed his shoulder into Leo in retaliation. But Leo saw it coming. He grabbed Gon's shoulder and redirected him, letting Gon lunge into empty space. Whoa. Gon hit the ground clumsily, face first. The gap is huge. Yeah. It's like watching an adult sparring with a child. Kurapika and Leorio looked puzzled. Leo wasn't just stronger, his fighting experience and precision eclipsed Gon entirely. Even though he'd been holding back, he was easily overwhelming Gon. What's the point of this match? They both wondered. You're really strong, Leo. Gon jumped up, beaming with excitement. You'll be this strong too, one day, Leo replied with a faint smile. Hearing this, Gon grinned and dusted himself off, then charged back in. This time, his attack was different. The wild swinging punches were gone. He tightened his motion, his shoulders stayed low, and his force became more compact, more focused. Kurapika and Leorio exchanged surprised glances. He's adapting. He's improving in real time. But Leo's expression remained calm. If anything, disappointed. Too normal. Still predictable. He dodged Gon's refined punch without even using footwork. No special Phaeton-style evasion, no rhythm break, just pure instinct. Then he countered. A clean, well-timed straight punch. Same motion as Gon's, but with 10 times the technique, form, angle, timing, follow-through, and use of body weight. He turned into the strike fluidly, aiming for Gon's jaw. A clean hit would knock him cold. Gon's done for, Kurapika said quietly. But just then, it happened. Whoosh, chomp. Question mark. Leo's punch halted midair. Gon had ducked and bit down on Leo's wrist. Like iron clamps, Gon's teeth locked around Leo's fist. Leo's eyes widened in genuine shock. He could have easily ripped his arm free, but he didn't. Instead, he just stared. Ha! With Leo's arm in his mouth, Gon lunged, copying the exact move Leo had used earlier, pivoting and throwing him by the arm. Whoosh! Leo didn't resist. He allowed himself to be thrown several meters and landed on his feet, light and composed. But his expression was stunned. He bit me? Seriously? He looked down at the faint teeth marks on his wrist. He hadn't sensed it coming. Not at all. It was like a gap in his intuition. Just like when Netero was surprised by Gon's headbutt during their dodgeball match. But I should have predicted that, Leo muttered. As someone who'd absorbed the instincts of a killer and a swordsman, Leo's combat intuition was elite. He could read muscle tension, eye focus, shifting weight, he could predict almost any attack before it was launched. But not this. Not Gon. Something's off. Instead of frustration, Leo was fascinated. Because I've trained with so many martial systems, I can read movement. Guns, blades, unarmed. The way humans use force follows patterns. Even unconscious reactions are predictable. But Gon breaks those patterns. He looked at Gon again, now brushing himself off and grabbing his backpack like the fight was already over. You're satisfied now, right? Gon asked with a smile. Your eyes told me so. Kurapika and Leorio stared in disbelief. What kind of post-fight line was that? No let's keep going. No we're even. No trash talk. Just an observation and done. PFFT. Leo burst into laughter. Yes. This was the unexpected move he had been waiting for. Gon's world truly operated on a different logic, his thoughts ran in unfamiliar tracks. And just then, a flash of inspiration. Leo stopped moving. He entered a meditative state right there on the street. What is intuition? It's learned logic. If a man lifts a gun, you expect him to shoot. If a swordsman moves his elbow a certain way, you anticipate a slash. That's muscle memory, honed reflex, and psychological pattern recognition. But What if your opponent's logic is different? Not incorrect. Just alien. Leo's mind began racing. That's it. Gon's logic doesn't follow the usual rules. He acts on different patterns. Different instincts. His unpredictability wasn't just chaos, it was its own kind of order. A pattern Leo hadn't yet learned to read. A whole new field of trials. Chapter 44. The gang leader was hacked to death by a reckless hothead. A father was poisoned by his own son. A husband murdered by his wife. An older brother framed by his younger sibling. To outsiders, these events all seemed unthinkable. Because by normal logic, how could someone as experienced as the gang leader be brought down by a foolish young brute with nothing but guts? In normal logic, father and son, husband and wife, siblings, these are sacred bonds. How could one betray the other? It's precisely because such things defy common sense that when they do happen, they're so shocking. And that's when it hit Leo. Yes. That's the answer. Gon's way of thinking didn't just ignore convention, it operated on an entirely different logic system. The key to his unpredictability wasn't in technique, but in thought. What made Gon's fighting style so hard to read was that his mind simply didn't follow familiar patterns. Take the moment Gon bit his hand during the sparring match. Leo had never even considered such a move. Because who in their right mind would risk their fragile mouth in a fight unless they were utterly desperate? But Gon didn't see it that way. For him, it was just another option. This was the true secret of Gon's unexpected actions. Yeah. That's exactly what I needed. Leo's eyes sharpened with clarity, and he smiled toward Gon. Kurapika and Leorio stared blankly. They had no idea what those two were talking about anymore. Then our deal's done. Gon grinned and held out his hand. Yes. Leo shook it with a rare softness in his voice. I look forward to our next trade, once you've gotten stronger. The handshake was casual, natural, completely at odds with the earlier battle's intensity. Kurapika and Leorio could only sigh, rubbing their temples. I give up trying to understand these two. Bye, Leo. Gon waved cheerfully. Goodbye. Leo nodded with rare warmth, shouldered his pack, and walked off with a bounce in his step. Gon and the others also left through a different street. Later that night, Leo booked a hotel room and paced around, lost in thought. Using abnormal logic to produce unpredictable outcomes. That's Gon's specialty. Because that's how his mind works. But me? Leo paused and clenched his fists. I'm normal. My logic is rooted in structure. Suddenly, he began punching the air. Whoosh, whoosh. A flurry of precise, heavy strikes. Then he stopped. Adjusted. Changed rhythm. Began again. Moments later, something clicked in his eyes. Even if I can't replicate Gon's unpredictability, I can create my own version of it. Whoosh. Leo launched a powerful punch, brimming with aggression. It was a posture meant to intimidate. But his face? Calm. Detached. Even. Vacant. Then, his eyes flared wide, and his entire presence transformed. A vicious grin spread across his face. He swung again. But the attack? A soft jab. Light as a breeze. Harmless. This is it. Unpredictability isn't just what you do, it's what the opponent thinks you're going to do. By disguising, hiding, or twisting my intentions, I can throw them off, just like Gon. He recalled the gunman's technique from an earlier trial. Aim with intention, fire without. The art of masking killing intent. Leo grinned. Not bad. Another trial passed. What I learned from Gon, I've now translated into a new skill. Intent masking. Leo was so pleased with his progress that he even whistled as he set traps around his hotel door, a habit forged in months of solitude. Elsewhere. Hunter Association headquarters. Chairman Isaac Netero sat behind his desk, flipping through a thick stack of examiner reports. Every year, each examiner submitted evaluations of promising candidates. Netero stopped on one report in particular. The Kent City Dolly Port Dolly Island route had multiple joint submissions. Every examiner along that path had flagged the same name. Leo. Netero rubbed his chin, curious. The ship captain described him as composed, adaptable, with a sharp sense of purpose. The onboard hunter, Dala Duo, noted Leo had already mastered Nen, his aura several times stronger than hers. The grandmother at the Q&A checkpoint commented that Leo reminded her of Netero himself in his youth. And the fierce Fox family? The father said he was a seasoned killer. The sister called him perverted. The mother said he had refined Nen's skill. The brother described him as cruel beneath a harmless exterior. Each one saw something different. Yet, each evaluation was intense. Reminds her of me. That part stuck with Netero most. He leaned back and chuckled softly, thinking of how people described him in his younger days. Maniac. Fanatic. Uncompromising. Terrifying. He didn't disagree. Humph. Netero exhaled slowly. Maybe they are alike. The Shingen Ryu, his own martial school, was notorious for its punishing regimen. The Hunter Association's teaching materials were diluted, toned down so students didn't collapse in a week. But Netero? He still practiced it at full intensity. Every day. Without mercy. Anyone who truly knew him respected and feared him. Now I'm curious. Netero stroked his beard and picked up a photo attached to the report. It showed Leo, standing alone on the deck, quietly watching the sea. The image wasn't a camera shot, it was produced by a Nen ability. A unique talent of Dala Duo, who could recreate scenes she witnessed as photographs. Meanwhile, Saba City, the next morning. Leo awoke feeling refreshed. After breakfast at a local restaurant, he casually wandered the city streets, soaking in the atmosphere. He remembered clearly. The Hunter exam would begin in a restaurant. Chapter 45. Ah, found it. Leo spotted the restaurant with ease. As he walked in, a young woman working as the hostess gave him a polite smile and gestured for him to follow. Without asking a single question, she led him to a hidden door and down an elevator. Before he stepped inside, she handed him a number plate. Number 289. Much earlier than the trio of Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio. She didn't even ask for a code? Leo scratched his chin in mild surprise. He clearly remembered that in the original, Gon and the others had to speak a password to gain entry. Maybe I look like a candidate already? He chuckled quietly to himself. Clang. The elevator arrived at its destination. As the doors slid open, Leo stepped out into a massive underground chamber, carved out like a cavern, with cool, damp air swirling around the stone walls. The wide-open space echoed faint murmurs and footsteps. Leo took it all in with practiced awareness. Another one just arrived. So many participants. Close to 300 now. The competition this year's gonna be brutal. Hey, the more, the merrier. Several candidates glanced at Leo as he entered, then quickly lost interest. He looked ordinary enough, basic travel wear, a backpack, short boots, and a sword at his waist. Clean. Practical. Nothing attention-grabbing. Unlike the flamboyantly dressed Hisoka, who looked like a circus performer, or Gon, who carried a fishing rod. Just another examinee. Most dismissed him. Even Hisoka, his face painted with a star and teardrop, spared Leo only a passing glance before turning away. Not bad, but not interesting, was the silent verdict. But while Hisako wasn't drawn to Leo, someone else was. "Hey, you're number 289, huh?" A pudgy man waddled over with a wide grin and extended his hand. "Name's Tunpa. This is my 35th time taking the exam." Leo glanced at the hand, then at Tunpa's eager face. Tunpa, the self-proclaimed rookie crusher, a conjurer who used his nen to spike unopened drinks with laxatives. Leo didn't respond. He didn't even shake Tunpa's hand. Tunpa awkwardly retracted it but tried to keep smiling. "Hey, cautious one, eh? Smart move. Well, like I said, this is my 35th year." Before he could finish, Leo turned his gaze on him. In that instant, a crushing wave of murderous intent surged from Leo's body. Hatred, violence, fury, sadism. A suffocating malice filled the space like black fog. Even candidates with no knowledge of nen froze in terror. What is this pressure? It's worse than anything I've felt in the wild. This guy, is he even human? The group instinctively retreated, forming a wide, empty circle around Leo. 3 people, however, did not move. Hisaka, Killua, and a tall, menacing man with nails embedded in his face. Tunpa, meanwhile, stood there paralyzed, eyes wide with primal fear. His mind had gone blank. "You what?" Leo's voice was low, emotionless. Boom. The pressure escalated again. The aura clinging to Tunpa's body, his fragile attempt at using Ten, was shredded. A mass of dark, malicious nen invaded his body, tearing at his life force. If someone had used Gyo at that moment, they would have seen it, like black flames of hatred, seeping into Tunpa like a curse. "Stop!" A voice shouted from above. A suited man leapt down from a rocky ledge and dashed toward them. It was Satatsu, the first phase examiner. In the blink of an eye, Leo reined in his aura. The murderous pressure vanished. Snap! Tunpa collapsed to his knees and passed out, unconscious. "You!" Satatsu stared at Leo in disbelief. He had felt that aura. It was too much, too overwhelming for a candidate. Even Satatsu had no desire to challenge it. "Just a little punishment," Leo said flatly, glancing down at Tunpa. Silence. The room was still. All around them, candidates kept their distance, leaving Leo in an untouched bubble of space. No one wanted to be near him. Even without using Ren, the psychological pressure he exuded was monstrous. "You crippled him?" Hisaka's voice cut through the silence like a blade. Leo didn't look up. More or less. He gazed down at Tunpa like admiring a shattered vase. His body was like cracked porcelain. "I only needed to push a little. If he were just a normal person, he'd be dead. But he knows how to use aura. He can patch himself together. Barely. Though now, his aura is too scattered to use Nen again." His tone was calm. Clinical. But internally, Leo was analyzing the result with great interest. He had infused his Ren with malice to form that overwhelming killing intent. A basic tactic for those with strong aura. But this time, he did something different. He'd tried mixing in the new technique he'd just created. Intent masking. Instead of simply overwhelming Tunpa with pressure, he camouflaged it, let it slither inward like a creeping fog. The result? Even Tunpa's Ten hadn't detected it in time. Chapter 46. The aura masking technique is normally used to suppress one's presence, hiding killing intent or the intent to attack. But just now, Leo had used it in reverse. Instead of masking, he amplified his malice. His deep, burning hatred didn't just create murderous intent. It transformed that intent into something far more terrifying, something akin to malevolent Nen or resentment. Resentment in the Nen world refers to extreme negative emotions, usually formed at the time of death. When fused with aura, it manifests as twisted, dangerous nen with terrifying power. Even elite hunters, among the 5 most powerful nen users alive, would feel their scalps tingle when facing it. So that's what it is, Leo thought. Resentment, in essence, was just a qualitative evolution of malice. It wasn't unique to the dead. If one's negative emotions were strong enough, it could be created artificially. This insight came to him after his battle with Gon. In the Chimera Ant arc, Gon had sacrificed everything, his potential, his future, to avenge Kite. That moment of total emotional implosion granted him godlike power. That was the price of resentment. So Leo had wondered. If Gon could do it, why can't I? He gave it a try. And it worked. He turned Tumpa the Rookie Crusher into a shattered mess of aura, a would-be hunter reduced to a helpless shell. Laugh. Normally, weaponizing resentment required immense emotional trauma or self-sacrifice. Doing it at will, with ease, was unnatural, perhaps even impossible. But Leo could do it because he had received feedback from his Oath of the Stranger. The fight with Gon had been another trial. Gon had completely outclassed him in concealing attack intent. Yet Leo learned from it. He transformed that lesson into a technique of his own, layering deception over malice, turning the unexpected into strength. Or output, 910. He leveled up. The power of will, sharpened through trials, had once again increased his nen capacity. This is what Shingen Ryu aims for. Leo smiled. To refine the heart through discipline and enlightenment. That's the path to purer, stronger aura. Elsewhere on the field. Ho-ho. What a terrifying man. Hisako was laughing to himself with a twisted smile. He'd initially dismissed Leo. But now he was shivering with delight. That aura was hidden from even my eyes. So subtle, yet so lethal. I thought he was just a background character. Turns out, he's exactly my type. Hisaka tilted his head, eyes gleaming with anticipation. Ah, I've met someone exciting again. What a lucky day. Even my bungee gum might not be able to deal with that resentment. If I fought him now, I might actually die. He couldn't help licking his lips, the pleasure crawling up his spine like static electricity. Nothing thrilled him more than dancing on the edge of death with someone who might rip him apart at any second. That delicious, exquisite thrill. I want it. I need it. Don't get involved with that guy. In the shadows, Killua stared coldly at Leo, a hint of unease in his eyes. He'd sensed it. Something primal. Something dangerous. Nearby, the man with nails embedded in his face also looked at Leo. Then turned away, showing no interest. The stranger's oath was right. Leo smiled quietly to himself. It hadn't even been long since he pledged to abandon human comforts in exchange for a life of trials. And he was already reaping the rewards. Doubled aura output. Aura masking technique, reversed. Creation of weaponized resentment. The Midas touch, cloud exploring hand, 18 rope bindings. That last one seemed useless. But maybe, just maybe, if his finger dexterity improved enough, he could develop some kind of unique spear or thread-based combat technique. Now, let's see what Hisaka the pervert does. Leo looked up, locking eyes with Hisaka. The clownish man smiled serenely, nodded ever so slightly. And then turned away. Yep. He's interested. Another trial, locked in. Leo could already predict it, Hisaka would seek him out in the near future for a fight. And that would be a battle worth preparing for. Even though I know Hisaka's nen. Strategy makes all the difference. You can't guarantee a win just by knowing a person's ability. This guy. He duels Krillin to a standstill, then loses an arm to some random in Heaven's arena? The man's combat strength swings more violently than a stock market crash. It's insane. Leo quietly laughed to himself and shifted his gaze elsewhere. Time passed. The rest of the candidates remained cautious and subdued, all wary of Leo's presence. Roughly 1 hour later, Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio finally arrived. Their badge numbers were in the 400s, among the last to show. Another sweet little apple? Hisaka, who'd been quietly brooding, suddenly lit up. Ah! Joju, we're here too. Gon waved happily at Leo. Kurapika and Leorio also nodded in greeting. Leo responded with a polite smile and nod. Wait, those two know each other? Hisaka's heart thumped. The little apples are together? This is divine providence. What a day! My beautiful toys, gathered all in one place. He clutched his chest as if savoring an overwhelming pleasure. In a shadowed corner, Killua also turned to look at Gon. Drawn toward him. As if by instinct. Chapter 47. The moment Gon and his group arrived, Satots, the tall man in the dark suit and mustache, appeared once more, emerging from the tunnel ceiling and dropping lightly to the floor. He checked a stopwatch dangling from his hand and cast a sharp glance over the group. His eyes paused on two candidates in particular. Hisaka. Leo. The former had assaulted an examiner in a previous test and was disqualified. The latter had just demonstrated Nen so vicious and intense it bordered on a vengeful aura. Both were abnormal. Dangerous. This is the first time I feared for my own safety as an examiner. Satots broke into a nervous sweat internally but kept his expression neutral. With a calm but authoritative tone, he declared. Registration is closed. The Hunter exam officially begins now. He turned and walked deeper into the tunnel. As he moved forward, he spoke. You've likely already heard the rumors. The Hunter exam is dangerous. Life-threatening, even. You may be injured, or killed, if you're not careful. If you still wish to proceed, follow me. His steps were even and precise. The candidates hesitated at first, then began jogging after him one by one. Over 400 people surged into the darkness of the tunnel. Ah! Whoa, that was close. Ugh! My ankle. What did I trip on? Within just a few minutes, several candidates were already falling behind, tripping over stones or debris, or twisting their legs in the dark. Some limped forward with pain. Others were forced to stop entirely. Those unable to continue were eliminated on the spot. So the test really has begun. Kurapika's eyes narrowed. He nudged Gon and Leorio. Focus. Watch your footing. Right. Got it. Both responded with resolve and focused on the ground ahead. Not far behind, Leo walked with a relaxed, unhurried pace, hands in pockets, completely at ease. As if he were just taking a post-lunch stroll. He wasn't bothered in the slightest. In fact, he was so calm he even had the presence of mind to activate Gyo, focusing aura into his eyes to observe Gon and the others. Leorio gave up? He noted the aura escaping from their heads. Gon and Kurapika had reduced their aura leakage to near zero, just one step away from mastering 10. But Leorio's aura was still loose and unfocused, only slightly more refined than the average person's. He'd likely chosen the safer path, halting Nen training to avoid the risks Leo had warned about. Fits their personalities, Leo nodded and moved his gaze elsewhere. His attention shifted to the man ahead, Satots. Clack, clack, clack. The examiner's footsteps echoed softly in the tunnel. He wasn't running. He was merely walking. But every step carried him more than a meter forward. Even as the candidates sprinted, they struggled to close the distance. Strange. That gait. Leo's eyes gleamed with interest. Elsewhere, Hisaka glanced at Leo and smiled. What an inquisitive little apple. Satots listened to the footsteps behind him, gauging the number of candidates who remained. He also knew this trial wasn't just about endurance. It tested something deeper. This environment, dark, endless, silent, preys on the mind. How far is it? Will this ever end? Will I die in this tunnel? Only candidates with strong mental fortitude could survive. Still, Satots didn't worry about those two outliers. Those two, Leo and Hisoka, will pass easily. They're on a different level. But when Satots turned slightly to glance back, he froze. A pair of glowing eyes were staring straight at him. Startled, Satots nearly stumbled. It was Leo. He hadn't broken pace. But his gaze was locked onto Satots, eyes sharp and focused. Is he planning something? For a split second, Satots remembered the last time a dangerous candidate had made a move mid-exam. Hisoka. He tensed instinctively, ready to react. But Leo didn't move. Instead, he nodded politely. His expression was calm. Friendly, even. Huh? Satots blinked in confusion. Was this just a greeting? Why would someone with such a terrifying aura behave so civilly? He couldn't make sense of it. He's still looking? Satots risked another glance, and saw that Leo's gaze was now scanning his entire body, tracing over joints and posture. Wait. He's watching my movements? Then it clicked. Leo wasn't plotting anything. He was studying Satots' walking technique. Trying to mimic me, are you? Satots chuckled inwardly. No need to worry, then. Let him try. That gait took me years to perfect. He won't replicate it just by looking. At the same time, Hisoka watched the exchange and snorted with amusement. Curious little apple indeed. Like a lost child reaching out for anything shiny. But sorry, Leo. That style of movement isn't nen, it's just biomechanics. And not even that useful. He smirked, eagerly awaiting the moment Leo gave up. But then. I see. Leo murmured softly. I see. His posture changed. From a light jog to an odd, mechanical walk. His arms and legs swung in perfect symmetry, stiff, yet unnaturally smooth. It was identical to Satots' movement. Both Satots and Hisoka turned sharply, their eyes wide in disbelief. Leo wasn't just imitating it. He was perfectly replicating it. Chapter 48. That guy. His movements are exactly like the examiner's. No way, he actually learned the examiner's technique? Several candidates noticed the shift in Leo's movement and gasped in disbelief. Gon and the others followed the voices and looked over curiously. When they saw Leo's strange mechanical stride, perfectly mirroring Satots', they were stunned. Leo, that's amazing, Gon exclaimed. That guy's ability to learn is ridiculous, Leorio murmured, glancing at Kurapika. Kurapika nodded slowly, equally astonished. In the distance, Hisoka noticed too. He narrowed his eyes, watching Leo for a few moments, then suddenly widened them in disbelief. He actually mastered it? It's not just superficial mimicry, he understood it. He grasped the core of it just by observing? Hisoka stared at Leo, his expression darkening with excitement. Satots also noticed. He turned to glance behind him, and momentarily froze. Leo wasn't just copying his stride, he was walking perfectly in sync, as though they were mirror images. Why you? Satots' heart trembled. For the first time, he felt as though his entire technique, his secret, his skill, his self, was laid bare. This technique mimics heartbeats. Right? Leo said casually, stepping forward to match pace with Satots. Tap, tap, tap. Their footsteps echoed in perfect unison. They moved so efficiently, they outpaced the crowd of running candidates without even trying. How do you know that? Satots blurted out, shocked. The word heartbeat struck right at the core of his technique, something no one had ever noticed before. Heartbeat? Gone, Kurapika, and Leorio echoed in confusion. From farther back, Hisoka narrowed his eyes and adjusted his own gait, trying to replicate what he saw. But after a few stiff steps, he gave up and smirked. Doesn't suit me. Doesn't match my power mechanics. Forced mimicry won't work. He looked at Leo again, this time with different eyes. No longer the gaze he gave to a ripening little apple, now, Leo had the gaze of a fully ripe prey, like Krilo. If you're just walking, you can refine posture, breathing, motion. Sure, it helps, Leo continued his calm analysis, speaking as if discussing a shared research topic. But that doesn't remove fatigue. No matter how efficient your stride, physical exhaustion still builds. That's just biology. Yet your movements don't accumulate fatigue at all. That's not just skill. It's unnatural. Leo smiled at Satots, his tone friendly. But precise. Satots winced. He nailed it. Completely saw through me. So? Satots sighed, helpless. Since you figured it out, how did you arrive at heartbeat? There was no point hiding it now. Satots would rather hear what this terrifying candidate had deduced, because clearly, he didn't steal the technique. He unraveled it. Around them, other candidates leaned in, listening intently. They might not understand it now, but perhaps one day, they'd piece it together. First, I ruled out Nen. Leo pointed to his eyes. Satots nodded, he understood. Leo had used Gyo, focusing aura into his eyes to verify that the walking style wasn't driven by Nen. So it's something any person, without Nen, could theoretically do, Leo continued. Then pointed to his ear. The subtle gesture was a message to other Nen users. I listened. Your breathing, your steps, and your heartbeat. They were all in perfect rhythm. Like a machine. It made me wonder, can the human body move without fatigue, like that? He grinned. And I had a theory. Kurapika and Leorio's eyes lit up in realization. Killua, watching from the crowd, frowned slightly. He's talking about something I've never learned. What's the only organ in the body that works in perfect rhythm, and never seems to tire? Leo smiled. The heart. But the heart does rest, it's just that we don't realize it. It contracts to pump blood, then relaxes. In fact, in every second, the heart works for 0.2 seconds and rests for 0.8. Exclamation mark. Even Satots' eyes widened. He'd never heard that before. He'd developed the walking method through instinct, trial and error. But Leo had grasped its inner logic in mere minutes. 0.2 seconds of work. 0.8 seconds of rest. Satots murmured, stunned. He realized, Leo hadn't just learned his technique, he'd improved it. Chapter 49. Leo also understood. There is a concept in this world called Nen, and at its core lies something even more fundamental, thought. Thought is like a universal wish-granting mechanism. Even someone with no knowledge of Nen, so long as they possess unshakable belief, can still manifest their will. A prime example, Biscuit Kruger. Your technique is like a heartbeat. When you move, you instantly contract your muscles to exert force, then immediately relax. That alternating pattern of motion and stillness gives your body time to recover, so fatigue never builds. Leo had seen through the essence of Satots' walking technique. The surrounding candidates blinked in confusion. What is he even talking about? No wonder. Hisoka muttered, finally understanding. That's why I couldn't replicate it. To master this skill, one must have a high-level awareness of muscular function, the willpower to override instinct, and the control to seize command over one's body with mechanical precision. That's not my style at all, Hisoka thought with a shrug. As a conjurer, he had no interest in such deeply structured movements. Nearby, the man with the nail-covered face showed faint interest. but ultimately looked away. He had his own techniques, more advanced, more refined. He didn't need to learn from others. Gon and the others only half understood what they were hearing and quietly gave up trying to learn the skill. Then, how do I optimize it? Satots asked. His expression had changed completely, no longer one of authority, but of curiosity and respect. He had humbly accepted Leo as someone with superior insight. Leo didn't hesitate. 2 paths, he said, raising 2 fingers. First, sync with the heartbeat. Feel your blood flow. Try to connect it with your lungs and other internal organs, create a groove where your whole body functions as a single system. Second, deepen your understanding of the body. Push every muscle to its limit. Develop a version of the technique that maximizes output instead of minimizing fatigue. The surrounding candidates were even more lost. What? Satots furrowed his brow and fell into thought. He and Leo continued walking side by side, perfectly in sync, like 2 gears in the same machine. Other candidates, distracted by the conversation, began to fall behind, some tripping, others breathing out of rhythm. That's quite clever, Hisaka chuckled from the back, his voice like a velvet razor. You eliminated dozens of people without lifting a finger. Very elegant, Leo. Candidates stiffened. They looked at Leo again, but this time their eyes were filled with dread. I'm just talking. Leo shrugged. Whether they listen or not is up to them. He didn't care in the slightest about who was eliminated. Satots exhaled deeply, a weight lifting from his chest. I'll go with the first path, he said, cracking a small smile. My technique's name is Love from the Heartbeat, after all. That option fits best. A very hunter-esque name, Leo thought, but said nothing. But I do have a question. Satots looked at Leo seriously. Why tell me this at all? Leo smiled. Think of it as tuition. Satots blinked. Tuition? That answer caught him off guard. In the hunter world, skills and techniques are rarely shared freely. Knowledge is power, and power is guarded. Yes. Tuition. With that, Leo slowed his pace and melted back into the crowd of candidates. Naturally, his proximity caused immediate panic. Everyone instinctively moved away, clearing a wide berth around him. A few unfortunate candidates became so flustered that their breathing collapsed entirely, and they fell out of the group. So you have your own rules. Hisaka observed with a finger on his chin, analyzing Leo. He's not just strong, he's principled. Structured. That's rare. The fight I'm after isn't just about punches and kicks, it's about style, mindset, even obsession. I want to feel your convictions in the blows we trade. Ah. Leo, you are a ripe, shining apple. Hisaka's throat twitched as though savoring a taste. Krilo or Leo? He winced, a strange, twisted pain in his chest. Which one do I eat first? They both might kill me. I have to prepare myself. I can only afford to enjoy one. Hisaka rubbed his temple, genuinely distressed, a rare thing indeed. Leo didn't care. He was preoccupied with something else entirely. Trial passed. A subtle sound rang in his consciousness, like a chime echoing in a dream. And then, he entered a strange state. The technique Love from the Heartbeat unraveled and reassembled itself in his mind, taking on a form tailored to him. Boom. A surge of understanding struck him. Insight poured through him like a dam breaking open. The technique transformed, no longer Satots' rhythm of rest and motion, but something raw, violent, and alive. Muscle. Effort. Organs. Rhythm. He merged the 2 paths he described earlier. In this new version, his entire body activates at once. Skin, muscle, bone, nerves, endocrine system. It all ignites in a flash. Like a dormant volcano, Leo erupts. In this state, he can push past the brain's natural limiters and draw out 100% of his muscular strength. As every martial artist knows, the human brain holds back strength to protect the body. Most people can only use 20% of their true muscular output. Trained athletes might reach 30 to 40%. Any more, and the body begins tearing itself apart. But Leo's technique forces his body to bypass those limits, briefly, explosively. A second wind. A berserker ignition. His heart, muscles, and mind enter a supercharged state. A technique that ignites me like a volcano and unleashes everything. Leo smiled. Let's call it, second gear, chapter 50. Leo admired the new technique he had just developed. By his estimation, activating second gear would boost his strength and speed by up to 3 times, for about 1 minute. But the cost was severe: torn muscles, ruptured ligaments, and fractured bones. If he limited himself to 1.5x output, the backlash would be reduced to general muscle strain. Feels a bit like kayaking, Leo thought with amusement as his mind wandered. Ta-da-ta. The candidates pressed onward. The atmosphere grew heavier. They had been running for over an hour, and many were approaching their physical limits, too tired to speak, let alone compete. Among the most fatigued was Leorio. Though his stamina was decent by ordinary standards, in this field, he was clearly average. At this point, he was drenched in sweat, barely holding on. "Leorio, are you okay?" Gon asked with concern. "No, I'm fine," Leorio gasped, struggling to maintain pace. I can keep going." "Leorio." Kurapika glanced at him, visibly worried. The two slowed down to keep pace with him. Tap, tap, tap. Satots remained indifferent. He continued walking calmly ahead. So did Leo. He recalled how, in the original timeline, Tunpa had tricked Gon's group into wandering into the illusion cedar zone, where they fell into hallucinations. Leorio and Kurapika had been forced to face their greatest fears. With Gon's help, they broke free, and in doing so, opened up to one another for the first time. That event also led to Gon meeting Killua. Leo mused. It had been a key turning point. But now that Tunpa was incapacitated, the original path had already shifted. Leo wasn't sure how things would play out, and frankly, he didn't care. "I'm not their babysitter. Let the plot fall apart for all I care." Ta-ta. Ta-ta. 3 hours later. Of the original 400-plus candidates, barely 200 remained. Boom. Suddenly, the tunnel wall exploded outward in a cloud of dust and debris. 4 candidates, Gon, Kurapika, Leorio, and Killua, burst through. "We made it," Gon shouted joyfully, landing with ease. "What's going on?" Satots stopped and turned to face them. "Sorry," Gon said, scratching his head. "We blew a hole through the wall." "It's fine," Satots replied, unfazed. "As long as you catch up, even blasting a hole through the tunnel is acceptable." Then he turned to the hole with surprise. That led through the illusion cedar zone. "I'm impressed you made it out." Even seasoned hunters with Nen had been trapped there before. Most of these kids hadn't even awakened Nen yet. His praise was sincere. "Hee, we got lucky too," Gon laughed sheepishly. Killua figured the tunnel was spiraling. Going through the haunted woods was the only way to cut across. "Killua?" Leo raised an eyebrow and turned toward the white-haired boy holding a skateboard. So Killua still met Gon. Even without Tunpa. There's some kind of pull between them. Leo studied him briefly. Then looked away. Whatever happened between them was irrelevant to him. "We're entering the final stage. Everyone, keep moving." Satots called, turning to resume his pace. Hearing the words "final stage," a wave of energy surged through the remaining candidates. They pushed themselves harder, digging into the last of their strength. A few minutes later, a blinding white light appeared at the tunnel's end. The group surged toward it. Moments later, they burst from the darkness and emerged into a lush, vibrant valley. A refreshing mountain breeze washed over them, and the scent of damp greenery filled the air. The candidates gasped. It was beautiful. They found themselves standing before a vast stretch of shallow water that mirrored the sky like glass. Scattered hills rose from the lakebed, covered in lush trees and thick aquatic plants. Exotic birds glided between treetops or dived into the water for prey. The land shimmered like a surreal dreamscape. "Whoa! It's gorgeous," Gon whispered in awe. "Welcome to the Swindler's Swamp, also called the Shamel Wetlands," Satots announced, hands in his pockets. "This is the only route to the second testing site. It's teeming with rare wildlife found nowhere else in the world. Most of them are human predators, clever, carnivorous, and remorseless." Clang. Behind them, the tunnel door slammed shut. Everyone turned, startled, and saw the path behind them was now sealed. "Stick close to me. Don't wander off. One misstep in here, and you'll die," Satots warned solemnly. "Don't listen to him." A voice cut in from nearby. A man emerged from the shadows, holding what looked like a body wrapped in cloth. His face was twisted with urgency and fury. "This guy is a fake. I'm the real examiner." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Leo narrowed his eyes. He remembered this. A candidate trying to expose Satots by using a man-faced ape. Right. This scene. The man threw down the bundle in his arms. It hit the ground with a dull thud and unwrapped, revealing a humanoid creature with long limbs and a grotesquely human face. It looked eerily similar to Satots. "This is a man-faced ape, one of the swamp's monsters," the man shouted. "It mimics humans to lure them into death traps." Then he pointed accusingly at Satots. "And this one's its accomplice. He's tricking us right into a feeding frenzy." A wave of doubt spread through the candidates. Leorio stepped forward, studying the dead creature and comparing its face to Satots's. His expression darkened. Could it be? He's suspicious. He tricked us. Impersonating an examiner? The tension reached a boiling point. Satots said nothing. He simply stood there, quiet and motionless. What kind of logic is this? Leo thought, his brow twitching. Some guy walks out of nowhere with a random monster corpse and everyone believes him. This is baffling. He glanced sideways. Whatever. Hisako will deal with it. Shink. In an instant, several playing cards flashed through the air, slicing toward the imposter. Chapter 51. Before any of the candidates could react, a playing card flashed through the air, embedding itself deep in the face of the accuser and knocking him to the ground. Who? A playing card? He attacked the examiner? All attention snapped toward Hisaka, who stood lazily spinning a deck of cards in his hands. He gave a playful smile and said, "Since no one can tell the difference, might as well test it. If he's really the examiner, then a little attack shouldn't kill him, right?" He turned to glance at Satots, his expression full of mischievous intent, as if he were seconds away from launching another card. Satots' heart skipped a beat. This lunatic found a justified reason to act. The crowd of candidates was stunned. No one expected someone to actually attack an examiner. But then again, what Hisaka said made a disturbing kind of sense. If the guy really is the examiner, he'd survive, wouldn't he? The whole area fell into tense silence. Everyone stared at Hisaka, waiting to see what he'd do next. Something's off. Leorio finally muttered, backing toward Gon and Kurapika. You just noticed? Kurapika sighed in mild exasperation. Huh? What do you mean? you noticed already? Leorio blinked, stunned. Look at Leo. Gon pointed. Leorio followed the direction of Gon's finger. Sure enough, amid the confusion, Leo stood motionless, completely unbothered by the outburst, his arms crossed, not even sparing the scene a glance. Smack. Leorio slapped his forehead. Right. If Leo isn't reacting, that tells you everything. Exactly. Kurapika nodded. When in doubt, observe how the strong react. It's okay, Leorio, Gon added with a sunny smile. Everyone has their own strengths. Leorio twitched. What kind of backhanded comfort is that? Just call me slow and move on. Leo, meanwhile, paid the chaos no mind. His focus wasn't on the imposter or Hisoka. It was on the man Hisoka had just killed. His aura's gone. Leo narrowed his eyes, analyzing the corpse with precision. The only injuries visible were the playing cards buried in his face. Can those really be fatal? Then he took a closer look. The cards were deep, driven through the flesh, likely shattering the facial bones and piercing the brain. Each one nearly buried to the hilt, penetrating the skull. That's not a regular card. That's a blade. That's Shu. Shu, the Nen technique of enveloping objects with aura to enhance their properties. Harder, sharper, more durable. Hisoka had used Shu to turn those cards into razor-sharp weapons. According to the manga, Hisoka's cards are reinforced until they're like steel blades. So they're not cards at all. They're paper-thin throwing knives. Leo frowned slightly. But Shu has a flaw. Aura dissipates quickly once it leaves the body. Which means unless you're holding the object, Shu usually doesn't last long. Yet Hisoka threw those from over 10 meters away. And the aura was still holding. That was insane. Leo turned his gaze toward Hisoka again. Just this one move confirms it, Hisoka's mastery of Shu is absurd. Yet Leo didn't flinch. His heart remained steady, like a seasoned hunter facing a deadly predator. His aura output, reaction speed, raw strength, they're all far beyond mine. Even with full knowledge of his abilities, I only have a 30% chance of winning. My Nen has no offensive or support utility, useless in direct combat. But I have tactics, planning, adaptability. Leo's eyes sharpened. I won't fight Hisoka now. Not yet. But before this exam is over, I will fight him. That's my oath. And if I want to stand a chance, I need to grow, fast. Suddenly, a phantom bronze door shimmered into view within Leo's mind. He calmly poured 1/5 of his aura reserves into it. Charging. A wave of insight surged through his body like lightning. It'll take 1/5 to unlock the next trial. I'm ready to start the 4th trial. He paused. But not yet. The trickster's wetland is still full of challenges. I haven't harvested enough from it. With that, the bronze door faded. Back in reality, the tension was rising again. Flip. Another playing card flew through the air, aimed directly at Satots. Snap. Satots caught it between 2 fingers, the aura on his hand clashing with the aura on the card. He winced slightly from the contact. It's no ordinary card. It felt like catching a steel knife wrapped in barbed wire. TCH. Hisoka licked his lips. This examiner's a bit stronger than the last. Apparently satisfied, Hisoka turned away and tossed another card in a different direction. Flip. The crowd flinched, thinking he was targeting another candidate. Thud. A hidden man-faced ape fell dead to the ground, a card buried in its skull. Everyone gasped. It had escaped unnoticed during the commotion. See? Hisoka spread his hands, grinning. Not that hard to tell them apart. Chapter 52. No next time. Satats flung the playing card aside and issued a stern warning. No matter the reason, if you attack me again, I'll treat it as an attack on the examiner. You'll be disqualified immediately. Understood? Yes, yes, of course. Hisoka replied casually, as if none of it mattered. Satats gave him a long look, and was relieved to see Hisoka settle down, for now. Good thing the other dangerous one isn't as unpredictable. His gaze drifted to Leo, who was crouched next to the corpse of the man-faced ape, studying the body with curious intensity, analyzing how the playing cards had pierced through muscle and bone. Satats's eyelids twitched. He stole my walking technique in minutes. Now he's interested in Hisoka's fighting style? In some ways, this one is even more dangerous. Satats sighed, suddenly feeling the weight of the job. Why is being a hunter-examiner so exhausting? He turned back to the group. Now then, follow me into the trickster's lair. Without waiting for reactions, he resumed his mechanical walk, vanishing into the foggy wetlands in the blink of an eye. The examinees jolted back to reality and hurried after him. We just finished the tunnel marathon and now it's a swamp marathon? Leorio groaned, jogging behind Gon and Kurapika. At the rear of the group, Leo remained in the back, observing everything around him. Hisoka also lagged behind, absent-mindedly plucking petals from a flower. Kurlo. Leo. Kurlo. Leo. He chanted the names with each petal, as if letting fate decide his next target. Halfway through, he stopped and tossed the flower aside. He didn't need the answer. It'll be Kurlo. Hisoka's smile turned impish. I've spent too much effort preparing for that fight. I even joined the Phantom Troop to make it happen. The guest is already seated at the table. It'd be rude to walk out now. He glanced at Leo in the mist. This one's still ripening. Killing him now would be a waste. Kurlo won't grow much stronger. His abilities are too conditional. But Leo. He's still evolving. Hisoka smiled slyly. Let's savor the meal later, once it's ripe. With that, Hisoka skipped merrily ahead like a circus jester, catching up with the group. Leo noticed. He had expected Hisoka to attack in the wetlands, and ambush among the fog, a sudden trial. But the attack never came. If he's not going to strike now, then so be it. Leo turned his attention to the environment. The air was thick with moisture. Fog wrapped around the trees like ghosts. Visibility dropped to barely 10 meters, everything beyond was a shapeless white void. Vision is compromised. Which means other senses, hearing, smell, touch, become dominant. In a world like this, creatures act cautiously. They don't chase prey, they wait. They deceive. Leo's mind spun rapidly, recalling details from the original exam. Man-faced apes. Trap turtles. Ambush frogs. Hypnosis discs. Exploding mushrooms. Camouflage crows. All of them shared a common trait. Deception. No wonder Satats calls this place the trickster's lair. If I want to survive here, I need one thing above all, discernment. I have to see through the lies. Leo smiled, and suddenly his aura began to pulse outward. A Nen technique that extends one's aura in all directions to sense life within a radius. 2 meters for 1 minute is considered average. Leo's N stretched 12 meters, and he could maintain it for 8. Plenty. He moved forward slowly, releasing his aura in pulses and scanning for anything within range. Hiss. A massive python, camouflaged as a tree branch, lunged from behind. Leo didn't turn. With uncanny calm, he tilted his head to the side, avoiding the strike. Whump. He jabbed the snake's side with a backhand strike, sending condensed aura into its body. The serpent's muscle seized, its heart stopped. It collapsed without a sound. Leo didn't even look back. Within moments, the python's corpse was swarmed by dog-sized rats, tearing into the flesh in a frenzy. In this swamp, the rules of nature mean nothing. There is no food chain. No hierarchy. Just devour or be devoured. Even moths will feast on corpses here. Leo moved on, alive with excitement. As he walked, growls, splashes, and screams echoed through the mist. Other examinees were being picked off. Ah! There's a trap. Help! Their screams drew more predators. Leo ignored it all and moved forward with purpose. More than 3 minutes behind the rest, he quickly began catching up. Up ahead, the fog broke slightly, revealing a group of examinees trudging through muck. This ground is impossible. Everything's a trap. We can't trust anything. They were frustrated and frightened. Then, swoosh! A blur shot past them. What the? Was that a person? He just ran straight through. Not even dodging? Someone recognized the silhouette. Wait, it's that guy. The one who mimicked the examiner's walk. Eyes widened. Leo. The one with terrifying aura. Of course he's fine. They watched in awe as Leo disappeared into the fog, effortlessly weaving through traps. Leo advanced in short bursts, managing his energy carefully. He would activate N for a minute, then rest, then surge forward again. Soon, he caught up to the second echelon of examinees. The mud is killing my legs. Leorio groaned. It's draining our stamina fast, Kurapika said solemnly. We'll make it, Gon smiled. We just have to believe in each other. Suddenly. Yo! Leo's voice broke through the mist. They turned in surprise. Leo. Gon beamed. Leorio and Kurapika offered polite nods, still wary. Killua, gliding by on his skateboard, kept his distance, silently observing. Where were you? Gon asked. Got delayed. Some cleanup. Leo replied smoothly. He tilted his head slightly, then vanished, dodging something unseen. HH. A swarm of bats swooped in, latching onto examinees' faces with shrill shrieks. My eyes. Panic erupted. Some tried to claw the bats off, only to rip out their own eyeballs. Kurapika's face turned grim. Move. Get out of this area. Gon shoved Leorio forward. Killua zipped ahead. Kurapika turned, and noticed something strange. Leo. He wasn't running. He was weaving. Effortlessly dodging bats with minimal movement, tilting his head, ducking, sidestepping, all with surgical precision. How? Kurapika murmured. Eyes? Ears? No, it's something else. Killua, too, was watching. That's not instinct. That's prediction. Leo turned to them and spoke casually. This is called N, an advanced Nen skill that lets you sense life in a radius. Gon and Kurapika perked up. Nen? Leorio sighed. He opted out of training during the test. Killua's eyes narrowed. That was the second time he'd heard the word. But it requires mastery of the 4 major principles, Leo added. Gon and Kurapika deflated slightly. Still, what you've already learned gives you an edge, Leo continued. Use it. Trust it. That's the difference between surviving and being eaten. With that, he blurred forward again. He's gone. Kurapika muttered, disappointed. He's fast. Gon watched with admiration. Killua stared silently at the fading shadow. Behind them. Huff. Huff. Leorio collapsed to his knees. Go on without me. We can't leave you. Kurapika argued. Eventually, Gon ran ahead. Kurapika and Leorio trudged on together. Killua, meanwhile, continued alone, still not understanding what friendship meant. In the fog, a red-haired figure emerged silently, smiling. Hisoka. Far ahead, Leo ran with inactive, sensing every threat. Most predators gave up after missing their first strike. If they fail once, they rarely try again. Their nature is deception, not pursuit. Leo grinned, gliding through the mist like a ghost. Chapter 53. After a while, Leo noticed his aura was declining, so he stopped using N and slowed down. Although he no longer maintained a circle, with 10 meters of visibility, he could still stay aware of his surroundings. However, without 360-degree coverage, some danger remained. The Shimile wetland, with all its frauds and traps, is no longer a threat to me, Leo muttered to himself with a smirk. As long as I stay cautious and manage my aura reserves wisely, I'll make it through this first phase. This trial should be considered. Leo suddenly froze, and the smile on his face vanished. Had he passed the trial? His expression grew serious as he scanned the mist around him. The thick white fog not only limited vision, but even dulled smell and hearing to some extent. That's why the creatures in the Shimile wetland abandoned direct pursuit and evolved to rely on camouflage and deception. To pass through this area, one must see through those deceptions and avoid falling into their traps. What was I thinking before I set off? Leo's eyes darkened slightly as he recalled his earlier mindset. The key to this trial is discernment. Only by discerning the deceit and disguises of these creatures can I claim to have conquered the Shimile wetland. Otherwise, if I just rely on my murderous aura to clear the way, which creature would even dare to approach? But right now, do I truly possess that discernment with a mere 12-meter N? Obviously not. What use is a circle only 2 meters larger than your visual range? It's practically passive defense. If he couldn't detect enemies early enough to avoid their predatory range, then he wasn't truly recognizing anything. TCH. Leo exhaled deeply, a bitter smile tugging at his lips. I've gotten careless. He looked out into the dense fog, the featureless void ahead. Since the second trial, I haven't faced any true life or death crises. My nerves have slackened. When I faced Hisoka and realized the gap between us, I became anxious. Even though I made my vow, I still haven't fully adjusted to a life of eternal challenge. Even with strong will, the pain of transformation is unavoidable. Leo evaluated himself as though he were a god looking down from above. So, this situation makes sense. Trials are meant to be painful. That's what makes the rewards worthwhile. It's normal to feel fear and unease. Leo nodded slightly, accepting his thoughts. Negative emotions are part of being human. Even in ordinary life, far from the world of Nen and trials, people grow tired and disheartened. The important thing is not to suppress these feelings, but to overcome them. Trials are both external and internal, Leo said softly. I treat the world as one giant crucible, like alchemy, where raw materials are refined under fire until they're transformed. I am the raw material in the furnace. When my components are purified and harmonized, that is when I will break through, when I become gold. At those words, Leo felt something shift. A sudden lightness ran through his body. It was as if some kind of internal shackle had been broken, and he could breathe deeper than before. It was a spiritual breakthrough. That enlightenment, as brief as a flash, had wiped the dust from the mirror of his soul. Boom. 10-11. His aura capacity increased by another unit. Nice. Joy rippled through Leo's chest. He could feel his mind becoming clearer, his will becoming stronger. And just as the Shingon Ryu teaches, Nen is willpower. The more refined the mind, the stronger the aura. Vows and limitations, at their core, are simply tools to refine that will. My sense of urgency was part of my tempering. My heart is changing. His eyes lit up with steely resolve, So I must face that change, and embrace it. A mere 12 meters isn't enough. His gaze turned razor sharp. A powerful will to change burned inside him. He activated his resentment technique again, not by feeding his aura with hatred, but with an overwhelming desire to evolve. Larger. Broader. A wider circle. 10 meters of visibility, and only 2 more meters of N. What use is that? Boom, boom. His aura boiled over like water in a cauldron. Trial passed. A faint voice echoed in his mind. Leo's lips curled into a satisfied smile. Without needing any vow or technique, his N expanded rapidly. 20 meters. 30. 50. 100. 200. His N now stretched a stunning 200 meters in radius. That was insane. Over 99% of Nen users couldn't push their N past 20 meters. Even elite hunters usually topped out at 50. Only true masters, like Xeno Zoldyck, could expand N past 100 meters. But Leo, a newcomer, had done it. What was the cost? My perception became blurry, Leo muttered, narrowing his eyes. If the 12-meter N had let him sense shapes, numbers, power levels, speed, movement, all with clarity. Now, with 200 meters, he could only sense vague sizes, large, medium, small. He could detect motion paths, but not movement types. Like a radar ping, Leo murmured. I can sense location and motion, but not what form the creature takes. Still, this was enough to see through camouflage. He stepped forward. No longer walking a straight line, he zigzagged like a predator navigating through traps. If one could peer down from the sky through the fog, they'd be shocked to see his path, an elegant pattern that avoided nearly every danger. Will-o-wisp butterflies. Ambush frogs. Walking piranhas. Mushroom mines. Decoy crows. All perfectly evaded. Their camouflage was meaningless before Leo's massive N. She is life energy, Leo thought, walking through gaps between predators. As long as a creature is alive, it leaks aura. Unless it's using Zetsu, I'll detect it. Now I can truly move unhindered through the Shimile wetland. He searched for traces of the lead group, the candidates who had stuck close to Sots. They should be near the end, Leo recalled. The wetlands are about 20 kilometers across. They've probably covered 15 by now. The advantage of following Sots, a safe route that requires little caution. Footprints. He spotted faint traces left by the group ahead. Adjusting his path, he set off after them. Meanwhile, in the second half of the wetlands, Sots was listening carefully to the footsteps behind him. With Leo's strength, he should have caught up. Why haven't I sensed him? He glanced back into the thick mist. Nothing. Did he get caught in something? Maybe. Hisaka? Sots frowned. The Shimile wetland was full of hidden threats. Even Leo might have been ambushed. And there's a time limit on this phase. Sots felt genuine pity. He respected Leo. Suddenly, his face froze. He felt an aura brushing against his own. Chi met chi, both sides immediately became aware of the other. That was the rule of N. Who? Sots flared his own N to 20 meters. Nothing. They're outside my range. Which meant their N was larger than his. Was that Leo or Hisaka? Boom. Suddenly, a creature's pained howl echoed from over 100 meters away. Candidates flinched, but no one turned back. They had learned not to investigate noises in the mist. But Sots. He stood frozen. That aura. That noise. And now, someone was approaching. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A figure dashed through the fog, effortlessly weaving around hidden threats. He moved as if he could see every camouflaged creature. Leo? Sots was stunned. The other candidates gasped when they saw who it was. It's him? He caught up after falling that far behind? And without the safe route? Somebody pointed out, his clothes were spotless. No dust, no blood, not even sweat. Isn't that a bit much? Someone muttered in awe. The crowd grew wary. This guy was not to be messed with. Was that you back there? Sots asked. Yep. Leo replied, calmly wiping a bone fragment in his hand. Had to make some noise to find you. Sots's expression twisted. The fragment was long and thin, still bloody. A Morallan's wishbone. More than 100 meters away. That roar. Leo had killed it. And the massive N? That was his. Don't give me that look, Leo said with a shrug. Normally my N is narrow. But I needed reach, so I sacrificed precision. Technically true. Still, Sots wanted to scream. Adjusting N wasn't that simple. Only Nen users with specific training or abilities could change it on the fly. But some people were different. Nobunaga's N only reached 4 meters, but he could use other techniques while maintaining it. Miriam's N, after evolving, could cover an entire country. Still a long way to go. I'll train a bit more. With that, Leo waved and stepped into the trees. This N isn't enough yet. His voice faded into the mist. Sots stood still for a long time. Had he imagined it? Did he really just say he's going to adjust his circle again? A few minutes later. Another wave of chi. Only this time. It was thinner. Like the air at the top of a mountain. He really did it. Sots's eyes trembled in shock. Leo. Changed it again? Chapter 54. Candidate Leo is clearly not yet at the top level, Sots muttered, but a circle of this scale. It suggests he has the potential to become a top-tier Nen user. But what shocked Sots even more, was what came next. The already extremely thin layer of aura suddenly shifted again, becoming impossibly diffuse. Scattered. Detached. Quiet. As if it had dissolved into the surrounding mist, completely silent. How is that possible? Sots's eyes widened in disbelief. The very nature of Leo's N had changed. If the previous state was like thin air, this was like a faint breeze. If you weren't focusing, you wouldn't even know the circle existed. Is this concealment? He considered the idea, but shook his head. The concealment technique is a derivative of Zetsu. It reduces an aura's emission, suppressing it to avoid detection. But even that can't completely erase all signs. If another Nen user actively maintains N, they can still pick up traces of someone using N. But this is different. Sots maintained his N, but Leo's aura was like an ambient current of nature, barely distinguishable from the free-floating life energy found in rich ecosystems. It was as if Leo's aura had merged with the world itself. Just what kind of monster is this kid? Sots stared into the fog where Leo's presence had vanished. To change the range and nature of N at will. Only someone like Jing Freaks could manage that. And even Jing's changes weren't this extreme. Meanwhile, deeper into the mist, nearly 500 meters away, Leo was calmly sheathing the bone fragment he had used to dispatch a merlot, a large amphibian beast native to the Shimmer wetlands. It was blocking the only safe path forward. Couldn't be helped. The wetlands were a dense tangle of interlocking territories. Sometimes, to move forward, you had to choose a fight. But even this form of N isn't my limit. Leo narrowed his eyes. The range of N was tied to a user's total aura and control. His current 200-meter radius wasn't the limit, he was sure of it. But what if I could evolve it further, integrate the deception of this landscape into my aura itself? In the Shimir wetlands, many creatures avoided entering another being's end range. It felt like stepping into a trap. If he could make his end feel harmless, it might slip by unnoticed. What if I disguised my end to feel like natural, ownerless aura? Excited by the idea, Leo began experimenting. He retracted his current N, compressing it to a 30-meter radius. Within that range, he focused on a camouflaged predator, a giant moss-colored frog, lying dormant, seemingly indistinguishable from the swamp bed. Its aura barely trickled out, thin, gentle, like mist. Creatures like this release aura so subtly, it's mistaken for the environment itself. That was it. The key wasn't just suppressing his aura, it was simulating nature. Instead of maintaining a stable spherical N, he began dispersing his aura loosely, letting it drift and fluctuate like natural mist. 1 meter. 10 meters. 100. 200. 300. 480 meters. His aura washed outward like morning fog. Xenozoldic's circle is 300 meters. And mine's already 1.5 times larger. But Leo's circle was no longer a circle in the traditional sense. There was no clear edge. The border wavered and shifted, convex here, concave there, rolling like an invisible tide. His aura felt like the natural leak of life force from the forest itself. It was a new form of perception. Of course, the cost is reduced accuracy. He couldn't distinguish individuals anymore. He could only sense concentration and direction, like vague heat signatures. Leo gave it a name. N, Thermal Imager. A wide range, passive sensory field that blended into nature, perfect for navigating terrain like this. He smiled. Back on Satotz's path. Satotz frowned, attempting once again to find Leo's aura. Nothing. I can't pick up a trace. He tried again. Still nothing. Satotz sighed. He didn't cancel N. He changed it. He'd seen similar feats before, but only in one person. Gene Freaks was the only candidate I've seen who could freely shift his N this fluidly. He would need to submit a special report. Chairman Netero had to know. Meanwhile, in the midsection of the wetlands. Slosh. Squish. Crunch. Dozens of bodies littered the mud. Disfigured. Mangled. Torn apart. The air was thick with blood. A lone red-haired figure stood among the corpses, licking his lips. You bastard. Leorio stood opposite Hisoka, gripping a broken metal rod with shaking hands. Hisoka tilted his head. Oh? You're not running? No. Leorio's face was tight with fury. I won't let my life be wasted without resistance. He roared and charged. Whoosh, clang. Hisoka dodged easily and shattered Leorio's rod with a single playing card. Snap. Then, in a blink, Hisoka had Leorio by the chin. What passion! Rage and fear buried under a brave front, delicious. He raised another card to Leorio's neck. But before he could finish. Thunk. A red float smacked Hisoka in the eye. He recoiled. NGH. Gon landed in front of Leorio, fishing rod in hand. Was that a fishing rod? Hisoka blinked rapidly, massaging his bruised eyelid. Then he laughed. That's amazing. Can I see that rod? He stepped toward Gon with an eerie smile. Hey, your fight is with me, Leorio shouted, swinging again. Hisoka dodged, still focused on Gon. Gon's rod lashed out again, but Hisoka blurred forward. Too fast. Gon's pupils shrank. Boom boom boom. His heartbeat roared in his ears, and then, it happened. The aura nodes atop his head, long polished and prepared, burst open. Fwoosh. Life energy surged out of his body. Ah! Hisoka froze mid-grab. You actually awakened your aura. Right now. A grin split his face. Gon, you truly are full of surprises. Excited, Hisoka began walking Gon through the steps. Wrap your aura around you, form an invisible armor. That's it. Beautiful. You're doing great. In seconds, Gon achieved 10. He had officially awakened Nen. You really are the best little apple I've ever tasted, Hisoka whispered. Then he turned, and spotted Kurapika approaching. Delight bloomed across his face again. So touching. You came back for your friends. He blurred past Gon and Leorio, reappearing in front of Kurapika. Kurapika drew his blades, but Hisoka was too fast. Wham! A kick to the gut sent Kurapika sprawling. Then Hisoka reached out, hand glowing with malicious aura. No, don't. Leorio screamed. Gon lunged forward. Too late. Hisoka pressed his hand to Kurapika's back and forcefully injected aura into his system. Kurapika's eyes went wide. The aura nodes burst open. He convulsed as aura gushed out. Another natural talent. Already at the door to Nen. Hisoka smirked and flicked his wrist. Bang! Bang! Gon and Leorio were blown back. Gon, thanks to his recent awakening, shook it off. But Leorio collapsed. Leorio. Hisoka laughed. I left him a little parting gift. A touch of malicious aura. He has an hour. If he doesn't learn how to use Nen in that time, he'll die. Gon clenched his teeth, fists shaking. Kurapika writhed, trying to suppress the torrent of aura. But he couldn't control it. He was drowning in his own power. Hey hunters. Just a quick break. Hope y'all are enjoying this fanfic. Let's keep going. Let me know what you thought about this one in the comments after this is over. Chapter 55. Hey, you can't do it? Hisoka turned to look at Kurapika and sighed in disappointment. I thought you'd be able to grasp pen right away, like Gon. Kurapika's rage was fading fast. Forcibly opening someone's aura nodes is an inherently cruel act. Those who awaken Nen this way, brute-forced open, rarely survive. Even out of 100 people, 99 would die. Gon had managed to awaken Nen in part because he forced his own aura nodes open through sheer willpower. It was a kind of initiation through training, not assault. Am I going to die? Kurapika's breathing weakened. Her eyes filled with the fear of death. That fear, overwhelming and raw, was an intense surge of negative emotion. The intensity of that feeling sparked something in Kurapika's eyes. A strange red glow ignited across her irises. Oh! A remnant of the Kurta clan? Hisoka, who was about to give up, suddenly stopped in surprise when he saw Kurapika's crimson eyes. When emotionally agitated, members of the Kurta clan experience a rare transformation. Their eyes turn a brilliant, jewel-like scarlet. Known as one of the 7 most beautiful colors in the world, these eyes are highly sought after by collectors. This notoriety had brought the Phantom Troop down on the clan, exterminating them. Kurapika was the last survivor, pursuing the hunter license as a step toward revenge. I just got a fantastic idea. Hisoka smiled. He took off his upper clothes and turned around. On his back was a familiar tattoo, the spider emblem of the Phantom Troop. Look. This is the Phantom Troop that wiped out your clan. Surprise, I'm one of its members. Though I didn't take part in the massacre 4 years ago, the Kurta orphans I've slaughtered since probably raised my standing. Hee. Hisoka's voice was mocking, almost gleeful. Kurapika stared blankly at the tattoo, and then, rage exploded in her heart. Ah! I'm going to kill you. Fueled by the flames of hatred, Kurapika's will surged with unnatural strength. The once chaotic torrent of aura suddenly became docile under the grip of that overwhelming willpower. It wrapped around her body. 10. Complete. In that moment, Kurapika became a full-fledged Nen user. But she felt no triumph. Die. She roared and swung her twin blades at Hisaka. Unconsciously, she coated the blades with Nen. Ken. Oh. You've got real talent, Hisaka praised as he flicked a playing card forward. His card gleamed, coated in hardened aura. Swish. The card sliced through both of Kurapika's blades with ease. The Nen surrounding them shattered on impact. Though both had used Ken, Hisaka's mastery and aura output were leagues beyond Kurapika's. Bang! Hisaka followed up with a kick, sending Kurapika flying. He had moderated the force, enough to wound, not kill. All right. 2 apples have ripened. Just 1 more to go, Hisaka murmured, glancing at the unconscious Leorio. In his eyes, Leorio was barely stronger than Botoro. Just a snack. You two are promising. I hope you'll give me a proper thrill next time we meet. Hisaka gave a courteous bow, movements as elegant as a nobleman. Gon and Kurapika glared at him furiously. Then. Until next time. Hisaka turned and walked away. Once he was truly gone, Gon and Kurapika ran to check on Leorio. Leorio. Wake up. Come on, don't fall asleep, if you do, you'll die. They shook him desperately. Ugh. Huh? Leorio stirred weakly, only to feel an intense pain in his chest. He looked down. A black-blue fist-shaped mark was burned into his skin. That's Hisaka's malevolent aura. If you don't learn Nen and drive it out within an hour, you'll die, Kurapika said flatly. 1 hour? Leorio's face turned pale. He had never been gifted with talent. That was why he chose the safest route. And now? This? Let's find Leo, Gon said urgently. He taught us so much about Nen, maybe he knows how to remove this. Leo? Hisaka, who had only just walked off, paused at the mention of that name. He turned around slowly, face darkening. Yeah, Kurapika said evenly. He taught us about Nen in exchange for a promise, we would battle him once we became Nen users. That deal's not over yet, so we can't let Leorio die. A deal? Teaching Nen? A battle? Hisaka's eyes twitched. Isn't that my thing? Whoosh. He reappeared before them in an instant. Say that again. What kind of deal did Leo make with you? Hisaka asked, expression cold and eyes murderous. The 3 froze. You tell me, or you die. His killing intent rushed out like a tidal wave. Kurapika stepped forward, standing between Gon and Hisaka. During the test, Leo made a deal with us. He'd teach us Nen, and in return, we'd battle him after awakening it. He deliberately withheld the detail about Gon fighting Leo before awakening. Boom. Hisaka's killing intent surged violently. BZZZT, ring. His phone rang. Illumi's number. Click. He crushed it without hesitation. Leo. Hisaka's expression twisted in fury. You dare steal my little apples? He bolted into the mist, blood boiling. I'll kill you. Gon, Kurapika, and Leorio stared, dumbfounded. Quick. Let's find Satats or Leo. They might know how to remove this. They lifted Leorio and began to run. Thanks to Ten, Gon and Kurapika felt their stamina doubling. With aura no longer leaking constantly, their energy expenditure dropped dramatically. Leorio gritted his teeth. I'm a doctor. I'm not dying here. If aura is the disease, Nen is the cure. He closed his eyes. He visualized his internal energy flow. And focused. -5 minutes. plus 25%. Boom. His aura burst out, and the aura nodes flew open. The bruise on his chest began to fade. Shh. The black mark vanished. I did it. Leorio opened his eyes, triumphant. You did it. Gon cheered, fists pumping. Good job, Leorio. Kurapika smiled. Meanwhile, Leo, deep within the Shimile wetland, kept his 480-meter thermal imager circle active, scanning all 4 cardinal directions. Suddenly, he sensed a large heat signature. Satots and the other candidates had left the wetland. He recalled the layout of the land and withdrew his circle to 30 meters. No more use here. I've already mastered recognition and deception. This wetland has nothing more to offer me. He stepped toward the edge. Elsewhere, Satots led the first-tier candidates to the designated checkpoint, a warehouse on the edge of the Visca forest. A large clock ticked on the wall. The door was shut. Right on time. Satots adjusted his glasses. My task is finished. Just then. Boom. A violent aura filled the air. Bloodied, fuming, and dragging half a dead beast behind him, Hisoka emerged from the mist. Leo. His voice roared across the clearing. Candidates trembled. Hisoka's killing intent was overwhelming, few could stand it. Candidate Hisoka. Fighting here is prohibited. Satots warned, stepping forward. Any violation will disqualify you. Hisoka ignored him. He scanned the crowd. Leo wasn't there. Still in the wetland? He turned back toward the fog, eyes wild. This ends today. No one steals my apples. Chapter 56. You want to kill me? Leo frowned, locking eyes with Hisoka. The surging bloodlust and crackling aura set his instincts ablaze. I'll die. I'll die. I'll die. It was almost double his own aura, an overwhelming force that could crush him. Yeah. I can't wait to kill you, Hisoka said with a chilling smile, lips curling upward. Don't even think of running. Even if I have to tear this entire wetland apart, I'll find you. Leo sighed, raising one hand calmly. TCH. What terrible timing. Though he didn't know what set Hisoka off, the reason didn't matter. He'd already considered a fight against him before. Shing. Aura surged around Leo's hand, and a hazy bronze door emerged in the air. Bad timing? Hisoka narrowed his eyes, sensing something ominous. Whoosh. He darted forward, turning into an afterimage, moving faster than most people could react. Lightning quick. Leo was impressed. Even in his werewolf state, he couldn't match that speed. It really is bad timing. But I already planned for emergencies. Leo ignored Hisoka's approach and thrust his palm forward. Snap. With the injection of 1/5 of his aura. Boom. The bronze door creaked open. A flood of white light surged out like an engulfing wave. The fourth trial begins. Just before the world vanished in white, Leo stared down Hisoka's charging form and smirked. Next time we meet, I'll be the one to kill you. Boom. White swallowed the world. Then, darkness. Time passed, how much, he couldn't tell. When Leo regained consciousness, he found himself in a thick, steaming jungle that resembled a tropical rainforest. The air was hot and heavy. The ground was wet and rank. Decay and life intertwined in the dense tangle of vines and undergrowth. Even the trees, vines, and grasses seemed to be growing and rotting simultaneously, impatiently racing through the cycle of life and death. Rainforest? Leo's body tensed immediately. He activated Gyo, sharpening his vision with focused aura, then quietly ducked behind a thick vine. He swept the area. Within 10 meters, no large lifeforms. Just insects, plants, and small creatures. Like the Shimeel wetlands, this place disrupted the five senses. No fog, but overgrowth choked vision. The foul air dulled his sense of smell. So, use in. Leo's eyes narrowed as he slowly pushed his aura outward. Shh. Plus 100 meters. 150. Then. Ping. His N brushed against another aura. Far away, 158 meters in a straight line. A man with stubble and a lean, wiry build paused. TCH. My aura's been sensed? He placed a small emerald green berry into a secure box and stashed it in a high tree's bird nest. So, Greenberry turned me in and even hired a Nen user to kill me, huh? His expression grew grim. Let's see who kills who. The man suppressed his aura completely, entering Zetsu, and moved into the rainforest's underbrush. On Leo's end, the target's aura vanished immediately. Gone. Zetsu? Leo raised an eyebrow. He didn't chase. Instead, he began moving cautiously in that direction. Confirmed, target is a Nen user, likely human. They chose Zetsu instantly. Meaning they assume I'm hostile. He quickly revised his battle plan. Trickery was out. The opponent had no interest in negotiation. Leo began sweeping N again at intervals, tracking the aura, when it showed. Why doesn't he keep Zetsu up continuously? Leo mused. Because Zetsu removes aura defenses. He doesn't feel safe moving like that. But the fact he's using it at all means he's confident in his knowledge of the terrain. Leo didn't press the chase yet. First, he needed to learn the jungle. Meanwhile, the enemy was watching too. He keeps using N. Either he's new, or he thinks the benefits outweigh the risk. Probably the latter, the man thought. He doesn't know the terrain. That much is clear. I used Zetsu 10 times. He only sensed me 4 times. He's not fast. Not adapted to jungle movement. He'll fold. The man smirked. Mosquitoes, heat, humidity? You'll give up eventually. But 10 minutes. Half an hour. An hour. He's still following me. His unease grew. What kind of madman is this patient? He didn't know that Leo had already crossed mountains, slept in forests, and hunted apex predators for weeks. Patience and calm? Leo had plenty. Back on Leo's side. He stepped lightly across a thick tree branch and paused beside a vine. Human footprints. Bingo. Humanoid. Upright gait. Manufactured boots. Not a beast or wild creature. He continued mapping out the jungle with N, marking danger zones. Thanks to his attempts to bait me into traps. I just learned the lay of the land without ever walking into danger. He never even realized I never came within 50 meters. Leo took a break, then resumed, this time, capturing monkeys as bait and expanding his N. Ping. Got you. He accelerated, dashing silently from tree to tree. The enemy frowned. He's speeding up. Already adjusted to the jungle? The man re-entered Zetsu, sprinting silently. Leo reached the point where he'd last sensed aura. He tossed a monkey into the underbrush. It ran, no traps triggered. Huh. No traps? He tried a venomous snake next. Still nothing. Don't know how to lay traps? Or lacking materials? Leo smiled faintly. You're not a killer, are you? Adventurer. Maybe an explorer. He tracked the aura again, just as it blinked out. On the enemy's side, hidden by insect-repelling juices beside a massive ant nest, the man waited. This guy's forcing my hand. I've got to flip this. He unwrapped a pistol and gritted his teeth. Hunter or prey? The roles can switch at any time. Leo, elsewhere, murmured the same. Hunter and prey can switch at any time. He eyed a cluster of footprints. Your trail's getting sloppy. You're anxious now. You know I'm close. And if you're desperate, you'll try to ambush me. So, Leo began stripping everything: shirt, pants, socks, even underwear. He folded them neatly and sealed them in a bag. Chasing Death Wolf activated. 1/6 of his aura vanished into his Nen ability. Werewolf transformation engaged, fur erupted, claws extended, his body expanded over 2 meters tall. N flared. Left rear. 70 meters. Target located again. He sprinted ahead. The enemy entered Zetsu again, but this time, he was no longer fleeing. He charged Leo instead. Dragging a thick branch, at the end of which hung an ant nest. He rushed forward, smiling confidently. You still think I'm running? Wrong. When you approach. 5 seconds to reach within 50 meters. 3 more seconds to 30 meters. You'll never get closer than 20. You're too cautious. Branches rustled. He smiled. Now. Bang. The pistol round struck the ant nest. Boom. Hundreds of thousands of army ants rained down. And underneath, a large wolf. It howled and rolled, covered in ants. Ha! Those ants will strip you to the bone in 3 minutes. But the wolf's expression changed. Human intelligence in its eyes. Boom. The werewolf lunged, from behind. The man had assumed the real attack would come from behind and dodged, but it was a feint. He'd fallen right into Leo's trap. The real Leo was already in front of him. Aura surged with pure killing intent, dark, violent, and overflowing with wrath. Resentment cloaked Leo like a shadow, rippling outward in a wave of negative emotion. Trial 4 had truly begun. Chapter 57. The man was still in a state of Zetsu. In that condition, his Nen defense was 0. This is bad. A trap. That was his last thought before his vision went dark. A surge of malevolent aura, resentment, invaded his mind like a tidal wave. Whoosh. Leo, fully transformed into a werewolf, lunged and sank his fangs into the man's neck. But the instant his teeth connected, the man vanished. Leo bit into nothing. He landed heavily, spun around, confused. The spot where the man had stood was empty. Elsewhere, over 300 meters away, the man reappeared at a location he'd passed earlier. He collapsed against a boulder, retching violently. Ugh. The overwhelming resentment had pierced into his brain like steel needles. The pain was excruciating. @yen %@ @, nonsensical thoughts spun through his mind. His stomach churned until all he could vomit was acid. GGHHH. Despite the convulsions and nausea, a vicious glint returned to his eyes. Clenching his jaw, he forced his trembling body to emit Nen again. Whoosh. He disappeared once more. Back on Leo's side, he narrowed his eyes at the spot where the man had vanished. Teleportation? Phasing? Spatial displacement? Before he could draw a conclusion, the ambient light dimmed. The man had reappeared. He raised his revolver. A pinpoint circle of Nen, only 25 centimeters wide, instantly bloomed around him. Within half a second, he pulled the trigger. The muzzle was aimed squarely at Leo's head. Less than half a second, too short for Leo to analyze or respond. He couldn't even register the man's figure before a primal warning exploded in his mind. You will die. You will die. You will die. But there was no time to dodge. Even the fastest nerves couldn't transmit signals that quickly. Only raw instinct remained. Boom. The bullet tore through the air. Crack. Leo's Nen erupted explosively, pure reflex. But it wasn't enough. The bullet struck his left eye, obliterating it. He reeled from the impact and was sent flying. "I won," the man muttered, a cruel smile forming. He expected a corpse. Instead, the werewolf scrambled to its feet and bolted into the underbrush. "What?" The man's smile vanished. He raised his gun and fired repeatedly. Bang! 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 But Leo was gone, lost in the dense foliage. There's no way that didn't kill him. Panic rising, the man reloaded with a different type of bullet. Snap! Just as he finished. Whoosh! A gleam of steel whistled through the rain. His instincts flared, he tilted his head just in time. The blade tore open his jawline. The Nen-infused katana buried halfway into the tree behind him. Had he not used Ken at the last second, the blade might have severed his entire jaw. Still able to fight back, he ducked behind the tree in disbelief. Boom! A gunshot rang out. He scoffed. No bullet could pierce a tree trunk. Whoosh! He vanished. Over 300 meters away, at a previously marked location, he reappeared. Did I just die? His hands trembled. No. I was shot? But how? Back near the tree. Bull ants crawled over everything, disturbed by the earlier fight. A blood-soaked Leo stepped from the underbrush, one eye gone, but calm. He retracted his in, steadied his breathing, and formed a circle, 1,000 meters. No trace of the man's Nen. Leo was silent, then aimed and fired. But not directly, his wrist twisted sharply. Boom! The bullet arced unnaturally, bending midair and curving around the tree. Thump! It struck dirt. Leo fired again. Bang! 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 Each bullet curved in flight, whipping around cover with unnatural paths. This was a technique he developed, inspired by an old movie from his past life. A fusion of Gyo, Ken, and fine wrist control allowed him to control the bullet's arc midair. Confirming his target had escaped, Leo retrieved his katana and relocated. Now perched in a towering tree, camouflaged by branches, Leo finally addressed his wound. He raised a trembling hand to his ruined left eye. Then, with cold precision, he drew his blade and sliced through the frayed nerves. SHNK. His entire body quaked. The pain was primal, like fire dancing along his spine. But it had to be done. With a few steadying breaths, Leo reached into the empty socket and fished out the shattered brass bullet. Damn! Cold sweat clung to his skin. So close. 1 second slower, and I'd be dead. But Leo didn't show fear. Instead, a wild grin spread across his face. Nice try. Hisaka surprised me too, guess this trial wants to keep things interesting. A dark glee twisted in his expression. The killer instinct from his first trial had returned. Elsewhere. The man slumped behind a tree, gripping a strange fruit. He crushed it and inhaled. The cool scent soothed him, but did nothing for the searing pain in his skull. That was resentment. No doubt. He recalled the feeling, like drowning in someone else's hatred. It wouldn't kill him, but the symptoms would linger for months: insomnia, memory loss, mental fatigue. Still, he had one trick left. Teleport, manipulator. His Nen ability allowed him to create up to 2 personal marks, points he could teleport to. Each mark consumed 1/3 of his max aura pool. If he tried to create a third without retrieving one, he would drop into Zetsu immediately. But what saved him was his oath-based defense system. He'd limited his N to 25 centimeters. Within that range, he had perfect, sixth sense level precision, enough to aim and fire in under half a second. And if an attack entered his N and he failed to react, a forced teleport would trigger. That's how he dodged Leo's werewolf bite. And again, the bullet arc. But now, he only had 2 teleports left. This guy. He's not done yet. And I'm almost spent. He crushed another fruit, but its effects were wearing thin. The rainforest darkened. Thunder rumbled. Rain fell. Most creatures fled into cover. The environment distorted Nen perception, but Leo welcomed it. The last card in my hand. Time to play it. He expanded his aura again. Circle, thermal imaging mode, activated. A wide, shapeless net of energy expanded outward, nearly 500 meters. The heavy rain became cover, masking his presence. 1 minute passed. Then 2. Finally, his senses tingled. Found you, Chapter 58. Because he had to fight against the resentment lodged in his body, the man did not enter a state of Zetsu. Leo's N detected him. However, because of the special nature of his thermal imaging mode, the man could not sense Leo at all. A fatal gap. Blah blah blah. The heavy rain poured down, masking all sounds beneath its roar, including Leo's approaching footsteps. Still didn't set a trap. Leo moved with care, stopping just outside the vine canopy. Only 3 meters separated him from the man hidden within. The man remained completely unaware. The tide had fully turned in Leo's favor. Let's test it first. Leo calmly unsheathed his katana. The rain and foliage made firearms unreliable. A heavier, more stable weapon was better for close combat. Moreover, the exact nature of the man's Nen ability was still unclear. SHHK. With a sharp flick, Leo hurled the blade. It flashed like lightning through the curtain of rain, tore through the vines, and stabbed clean through the man's knee. Exclamation mark. A scream rang out. Within the vines, a crude shelter, lined with stones and covered in leaves, had served as the man's refuge. How did he find me? The man trembled, staring in horror at his right leg. The blade had pierced his kneecap, shattering the joint and rupturing the meniscus. That leg was finished. Even the best doctors couldn't fix this. The rain should have masked every trace. Panic consumed him. As if a werewolf might leap through the vines at any moment to finish the job. Fwoosh. Without hesitation, he activated his Nen, teleport, manipulation type. Outside, Leo sensed a dip in the surrounding aura, like a patch of warmth disappearing in a thermal scan. At the same time, 200 meters to his right, a faint aura appeared where none had been before. The teleport location shifted. Leo raised his gun and casually emptied the magazine into the vine shelter. Bang bang bang. No return fire. No movement. Not returning, huh? Leo waited a few beats, then reloaded and entered the shelter. Inside was a small, dry space, cleverly built for rest. A stone sat like a bench in the center. Overhead, thick foliage had formed a natural canopy. His katana was still lodged in a stone slab, blood staining the blade. Direct hit. Leo retrieved the blade and inspected the bloody debris on it. Knees blown apart. That leg's useless. He slipped the sword back into its sheath, smiling faintly. Also, he takes too long to teleport. Leo mulled it over. Looks like his passive teleport triggers from instant fatal damage. He turned back into the rain and calmly made his way toward the man's new position. Meanwhile, the man appeared at the second teleport mark, pale as a ghost. His vision swam, his skull throbbed. The pain was unbearable. Fuck. He bit his tongue to keep from blacking out. Losing consciousness meant death. But it barely helped. His brain felt like it was being drilled through. That cursed residual Nen, a vortex of malice and rage, was still wreaking havoc in his mind. Only 2 uses of his ability remained. I'm completely out of options. He sat there in the pouring rain, numb and panicking. Not far away, Leo was climbing a tree with ease, using his end to track the man's aura. The rain made it harder, but not impossible. Leo stopped 3 meters away and once again hurled the katana. Thwip! A streak of steel sliced through the downpour. PFFT. It landed with a sickening crunch. The man, high in the branches, stared in horror at the blade lodged in his abdomen. It had punctured clean through his gut. How is he here again? He looked down at the blood oozing out, and immediately used his nen to teleport again. Back on the ground, Leo calmly recovered his katana and reloaded his pistol. That time I aimed for the abdomen. Clean gut shot. He'll bleed out slowly. He thought for a second. The trigger condition really does seem to be instant lethal damage. But it must require that the user can't react. That's the only way to explain why it's passive. Leo began moving again, closing in on the final location. But suddenly he paused. Absolute Zetsu? Even now? He lost track of the man's aura. Back at the new location, the man reappeared, this time amidst a fresh shower of bullet holes. He shivered. He anticipated I might teleport back. I would have walked right into another shot. Lucky I didn't. There was no choice now. He tore off strips of foliage, made a crude bandage, and tightened it around his waist. Then he entered Zetsu, suppressing his aura completely. Buzz. The pain in his skull surged. The residual nen within him flared, making him dizzy and disoriented. But he endured. He hobbled away on one leg, dragging himself through the mud. He loaded a final bullet into his gun. A dark red round, etched with seals. My final shot. Heavy rain fell for a while longer, then stopped. The rainforest returned to an eerie calm. The man waited. And waited. Leo never came. Half an hour passed. The man, delirious and freezing, eventually collapsed from exhaustion and pain. Far away, Leo finished his short nap. All right. Let's end this. Fwoosh. 1/5 of his aura vanished. He grew fur, fangs, and claws. His body stretched. Death-chasing wolf. The werewolf leapt forward, tearing through the rainforest on all fours. 1 minute later, he arrived. Ah. So teleportation only works to a fixed spot. Leo sniffed the air. His werewolf nose picked up a faint metallic tang, blood. The man hadn't gotten far. Leo followed the scent. Before long, he found him slumped under a tree, unconscious. It's over. Leo exhaled. This battle, from the moment he entered the rainforest, to now, had lasted nearly 3 hours. A long, hard fight. But it was done. Still wary, Leo grabbed a vine, fashioned a noose, and hurled it toward the man's neck. Snap. Crack. Boom. The man's body crashed against trees, neck shattered, head bursting. The moment he hit the ground, boom. White smoke burst from the corpse and flowed into Leo. Whoosh. His body was flooded with warmth. Like stepping into a hot spring. Boom. Another wave of white smoke. This one condensed into a small, jade-like fruit in his hand. Green berry. Leo stared. His body salivated instantly. Just like when he saw the used deer's heart. A deep, instinctive craving. Item, green berry. Origin, Greater Tata Rainforest. Effect. Awakens Nen in ordinary people, reduces death rate from 90% to 70%. Massively increases aura in weak Nen users. Value, 30 billion Jenny. Note, only the first one has effect. Future ones become ordinary fruit. So that's it. Leo looked at the fruit in awe. It's not just a power boost, it's symbolic. Even if it weren't this fruit, the reward from the trial would have matched my desire, a surge in power. To prepare me for Hisoka. He popped it in his mouth and chewed. The taste was exquisite, sweet, juicy, unforgettable. Whoosh! A warm current flooded his veins. His body grew stronger, muscles, nerves, bones, and even organs subtly changing. His aura shot upward. +1. +1. +1. From 11 to 25. More than double. And he noticed something else. His Nen control had grown as well. He now had proficiency in the 4 major principles: Ten, Zetsu, Ren, Hatsu. Core techniques: Gyo, In, En, Shu, Ken. And a new intuitive grasp of battle tactics and Nen conditioning. These are his memories. His skills. There was more forming in the back of his mind, something new. A conceptual Nen ability perhaps? Before he could explore it. Trial passed. The rainforest darkened. Leo slipped into darkness. The next moment, he opened his eyes in the Shamel wetlands. His body was whole. His eye had returned. And ahead. Whoosh! Hisoka charged toward him. TCH. Fresh out of the trial, and another fight. But Leo's lips curled into a grin. Just in time. Shing. He unsheathed his sword, aura flaring. Boom. His doubled aura exploded from his body. Eh? Hisoka's eyes lit up as he flicked playing cards into his fingers. FFFFT. The cards sliced the air with deadly force. And that's a wrap, hunters. High voltage sign emoji, open book emoji. Another amazing Hunter x Hunter fanfic added to the books. Massive shout out to the original author, their info's down in the description, so go show 'em some love, blue heart emoji. If you're new here and vibing with the videos, smash that like button, drop a comment, even if it's just screaming Killua supremacy, triumphant face emoji, speech bubble emoji, and hit subscribe to officially join the cult, community. Yay! The Hunter community, eyes emoji. Your support, comments, likes, polls, coffees, everything, keeps this channel alive and motivates me way more than you probably realize, brain emoji. Oh, and don't forget to check the community tab. I actually post polls, memes, and cult lore there, not just endless sub begging like some audiobook bots, embarrassed smiley face emoji. That's it for now. Peace. And love y'all, headphone emoji, red heart emoji.